Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Pop Culture Curator. So happy to be here for another fantastic Wednesday for our reviews of the legendary, hysterical, and close to my heart show Gilligan's Island. I'd like to first of all welcome Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Gorilla, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing. They still won't fire me.
We still won't fire you no matter how hard you try.
They even said that it's going to start getting hot in the plant there because of the coding thing. I told them, fine, I'll just start stripping butt ass naked at the table here, pulse naked. And they just
Oh,
told me they just sent me home for the day.
well, what if you do it and get you a raise?
Huh.
I guess you never know, right?
Well, the problem is it's all guys that work with me.
Oh, it's no fun then. Then I guess there's nobody left to offend. Usually it's the women.
Well, we do got a woman as our HR gal, but
Oh, well, the last person you want to upset is the HR now, right?
yeah.
It looks like today we're going to be covering episodes 3 and 4. Previously, before we covered the pilot and the first two episodes. So this is our third week reviewing Gilligan's Island reviews. And first of all, I know we're going to have people, hopefully have people coming in the chat. Sometimes people come in a little late. If there's any viewers out there on the rerun who are watching this later on, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoy what we have coming up. And if you like it, please hit the like button and share what you see and subscribe to my channel. Gorilla's Random Thoughts here has a fantastic channel as well. Gorilla, before we get started, would you like to tell us about your channel?
Well, tonight we just got done with Stranger Things. The first 15 minutes I
Nice.
screwed up by playing the wrong episode.
I make mistakes all the time, as you well know, so that's totally fine.
Yeah, then tomorrow we're gonna start looking into doing the Waltons there. I think that'd be a fun one to review. We'll at least do season 1.
Well,
And all
great. Do
that.
you have a co-host yet?
Does Germ, but you're always invited to come on too.
Is Germ here? Are you talking to Germ?
He said I thought he said he was gonna come in. I know LDG said he's coming over.
Oh well, maybe they're on their way. Maybe they just haven't gotten here yet. I don't. At least
Yeah,
I don't
we
see
got
them.
yeah
They
we
may be
got done with
lurking.
this. We got done with the stream about 5 minutes before this stream was supposed to start. So I'm pretty sure we. Yeah, that then on Saturdays we do watch parties Babylon 5, and then this Sunday we're doing a very special watch party about a film that's filmed in my hometown about an urban legend there called Loon in the Lake. Actually, gotta
I
get that
tried
one
like
made.
hard. I tried like hard to get that, but like I said, it's just there's not that many people out there. Well, I can't give you the detail, but let's just say it's not done yet. I wish it would hurry up,
Yeah.
but I'm hoping to. Maybe one of these days I'll get it. So
Yeah.
are you able to view it on that website that you told me about before, the 321?
Yeah.
Well, then maybe I'll just do that then instead of trying to spend 2 weeks trying to find it. So maybe I'll do that tonight. Yeah, what's interesting too is this Gilligan's Island. The first episode we're going to review, I was so busy yesterday, but I watched it last night. But I wasn't able to watch the second one until just now, basically. I got up, I was rushing to get home from work, and I just finished it like 3 minutes before this stream was beginning. So that's why I'm a little late here. So I'm
Yeah.
running a little behind. I apologize to anybody out there. Did you have any questions before we get started?
Oh, I know. I was gonna point a few things out in here. Like
Okay, great.
my cousin there's in the first episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that chimpanzee that was running around. That's my cousin.
your little cousin, the chimpanzee. Yeah, I think this is going to be fun. And tonight, I'm going to share. I kind of showed you a hint yesterday of Bob Denver's website, or I don't know when I showed you a couple of days ago, or whenever that was. But right. So for those of you out there, what we're talking about is Bob Denver has a website out there. I'm going to be sharing that with everybody so you can kind of see what it looks like, because I actually recommend that you check it out if you ever get a chance. All right. So I'm going to share my screen really quick. Usually I read from the book about Gilligan's Island from Sherwood Schwartz. I usually try to read a little bit of that each week. But instead, I'm going to read a little bit from Gilligan's Island here. And I'm going to share the screen so that people can follow along as I read, instead of just staring at an empty screen here. So let me go to present and share screen. Brave tab. And this might be answering some questions too, if any of you guys have questions out there, this might help. And this is Bob Denver's website, as you can see here. Bob Denver, unfortunately, as we all know, has passed away and he's no longer with us. But this website is ran by his wife, Dreama, and I believe she's still around. And at the top of this one page here, you can see where it says Top 10 Most Frequently Asked Questions. Welcome to the Top 10 Most Frequently Asked Questions about Gilligan's Island, answered by Bob. And take a look at this. It says, could you tell us the characters' full names on the show? So this is a bit of trivia that here I've been wanting to cover. So if there's any interested parties out there, if there's anything you're wondering that you've never found out, here we go. Gilligan's true full name is Willie Gilligan, and which was never used. Bob would have argued not to use Willie, right? Bob did not like the name Willie, but Sherwood Schwartz picked it, and what Sherwood Schwartz says goes. Bob Denver was preferred just to go by the name Gilligan. Okay, the skipper's true name was Jonas Grumby. Thurston Howell III was, of course, Thurston Howell III. Mrs. Howell is Eunice Whitworth Lovey Howell. Ginger is Ginger Grant. The professor is Roy Hinckley. And Marianne is Marianne Summers. So if you're wondering the names of the characters that we don't hear very often, that's what they are. And I'll be referring them later on through our as we review further episodes. Now, I'm going to scroll down here. By the way, this is bobdenver.com. bobdenver.com. I highly recommend you check out this website. If you're a Gilligan's Island fan, I think you'll really enjoy it. So what I wanted to share with everybody is a letter that a fan sent to Bob Denver. And the letter was from a person named Jeff Taylor from North Carolina. And what he did was he wrote a letter which he was trying to reason, because most of the questions people have about Gilligan's Island is how do they have so many clothes? Where do they get all this stuff from? You know, if they were only going on a 3-hour tour. That's one of the big burning questions. So this fan wrote this letter and submitted it to Bob Denver, and Bob Denver loved it so much. Like I said, he posted it on his website. So I don't know if it's officially considered Gilligan's Island canon, but I would like to think so because it makes a kind of a lot of sense. And I'll share with you what it says. So it says, Jeff Taylor from North Carolina. Hi, Bob. One of the biggest GI questions, by the way, I'll refer to Gilligan's Island as GI. One of the biggest GI questions seemed to be why the castaways took so many clothes on a 3-hour Hawaiian island excursion. Well, I have an explanation that I think fits with most of the GI storylines. My explanation is the 3-hour tour was not a round trip. The 5 passengers were originally en route to a remote Hawaiian Club Med type resort. The resort is owned in part by one of Mr. Howell's companies. It's a real ritzy place that high society people go to just to get away from it all. Some guests at the resort stayed for several weeks at a time. Marianne won the trip in a radio station sweepstakes. The professor had been invited to the resort to speak at a convention of Asian college professors. The resort is very remote and not easily accessible by car. Guests use the boat shuttle service that is provided by the resort. The SS Minnow is one of several charter boats contracted by the resort to shuttle guests. Guests en route to the resort can choose the direct shuttle that takes about 30 minutes, or they can choose an island tour shuttle that takes about 3 hours. The 3-hour tour is very scenic and relaxing, usually. Many guests prefer it over the 30-minute direct shuttle. A guest's wardrobe depends on their length of stay. Guests may be attending parties or formal functions while at the resort, so they must pack for these events too. The professor had only planned to stay a few days. He was planning to prepare his speech while at the resort, so he brought along some of his scientific books, but not a lot of clothes. Mary Ann's visit was supposed to be 2 weeks. She was hoping to meet a rich man during her stay, so she brought a variety of modest but appealing outfits. Ginger and the Howells were staying at least a month with several respective parties and banquets to attend their lengthy stay. Mr. Howell had not planned to take the 3-hour shuttle with Mrs. Howell. He had a business meeting the next day in Honolulu and was going to join her later in the week for a long overdue vacation. Although he was not taking the tour shuttle with Mrs. Howell, he did accompany her in the limo to the marina to see her off. He had the chauffeur take their entire luggage, including a large steamer trunk, to the dock for Gilligan to load onto the minnow. The skipper was preparing the ship for sailing. It was a bustle of activity. Gilligan was having trouble stowing the luggage because the Howells had so many things. But since Mr. Howell was part owner of the resort and the skipper did not want to lose the contract, he ordered Gilligan to do whatever it took to get the Howells' belongings on board. When Mr. Howell got back in the limo to leave the marina, he discovered that Mrs. Howell had left her fur stole. Thinking she might need it, he decided to take the fur to Mrs. Howell before the boat sailed. He didn't feel it would take long, so he instructed the chauffeur to keep the limo running. All the passengers were on board, but Mr. Howell didn't see his wife. Mary Ann said Mrs. Howell had gone down to the lower cabin area to freshen up. Gilligan was having trouble getting the trunk stowed away, and the skipper was trying to help him. Mr. Howell was unable to get the skipper's or Gilligan's attention because of the noise of the idling minnow engines and other boats in the marina. It didn't look like the minnow was ready to leave yet, so he decided to go on board and take the fur to Mrs. Howell. He went down below where he found Mrs. Howell. Skipper and Gilligan were still struggling with the Howells' heavy steamer trunk. Meanwhile, Mr. Howell had given his wife her fur and was leaving the cabin, but found the door was stuck. The Howells tried, but was unable to get it open. They tried knocking and beating on the door, but apparently no one could hear them. They tried shouting, but their screams were drowned out by the other boats in the harbor. By now, the skipper was frantic because the minnow was over 20 minutes late sailing due to Gilligan's troubles with the luggage. In their rush to get underway, they failed to realize that Mr. and Mrs. Howell were stuck in the lower cabin. Even though Mary Ann had tried to tell Gilligan that she did not remember seeing Mr. Howell leave the boat after taking Mrs. Howell's her fur. They were well into the 3-hour voyage by the time they discovered Mr. Howell was on board. The skipper offered to take him back, but Mr. Howell didn't want to spoil everyone's trip, so he agreed to proceed on to the resort where he would catch the next return shuttle. Well, as luck would have it, the minnow's radio failed, and then the weather started getting rough, and you know the rest of the story. That's my explanation for the events leading up to the 3-hour tour. So what do you think about that, Gorilla? What's your opinion?
Interesting there. I still think that's a little inattentive of them not to realize Mr. Howell didn't leave the boat. It seemed like there'd only be like one ramp to get on and off that boat.
Well, there was one ramp. What, you think there should have been two, or what do you think?
No, I think they should have noticed that he didn't leave.
Maybe they were distracted looking around at other things.
Yeah.
Now,
Maybe.
I can kind of agree that it doesn't make sense. Of course, like, you know, as we all know, that scene is hypothetical and it's something that a fan made up. But I thought it's kind of interesting because, you know, like I said, a lot of people do wonder how and why they had so many clothing. So now, at least now we know why Ginger had so many dresses, right? If it's true that she had planned on staying for a month at the resort. So I'm going to be showing a clip here. You know, I'll be doing when we cover the episodes, I'll be covering episodes 1 and 2, episodes 3 and 4. And during the first one here, I'm going to do some pausing to kind of point things out. Did you have any questions before I start the first one?
No.
All right, then. Let me go to present, if I can do this right without screwing it up. Now that I know how to do it correctly. Bear with me here. My computer is not the fastest. All right, so we are looking for episode 3, if I have this correct.
Yep, Voodoo reminisce something or something like that.
All right, let's see how this looks. This video is a unique codec that your browser does not support. Boy, isn't that so interesting to find that out now, isn't it? So, hold on just a moment here. Of course, it's gonna do this when I start the stream. So I'm gonna go to my. I was gonna show the Blu-ray versions, which is what I was getting ready to play, but it's saying that it doesn't. Let me try to open this manually. Bear with me a second here, because I just watched these a moment ago. All right, if I do this, bring this over here, pause this, and bring it back to the beginning. We're not going to, okay, if you remember at the other day when I was trying to share, there was no sound, right? Which is fine, because I don't want to play any sound anyway. So I'm going to share a screen like I was doing before. And let's hope it works. Okay, here we go. So it is working. All right, then. Just don't believe what my eyes are saying. Okay, so everybody can see that, right? Can you see that, Gorilla? Hello, hello?
Yep, sorry, I was muted. I went to go get some milk.
Oh, no problem. As long as as long as you can hear me, and are you able to see the video, the doc?
Yep.
All right, beautiful. All right. So let's, like I said, I'm going to skip through this. We don't want to get a copyright strike, so I'll be skipping every few seconds. So here's as it's opening, and there's a SS Minnow, and as we see Gilligan getting ready, and there's Skipper. Now, can you see the boat?
Yep.
Okay, here's what I want to point out. At the top of the boat there, at the very top there, I think it's called the crow's nest, you can actually see Skipper and Gilligan standing there. At the front of the boat, which I believe is the bow, I think the rear is called the stern. I could be wrong, but I think that's it. But at the front there, remember this shot is from the pilot, so you can see the three people that were replaced. So at the front of the boat, that's not actually Marianne, Ginger, and the professor, but those three that, like we said, that we saw in the original non-aired pilot. If you look at the back of the boat, there you'll see Mr. and Mrs. Howe. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. And there they are. I can go back just a second. I was hoping to show the flag at half mast, but everybody who watches this will be able to tell.
Yeah, we've seen that. We've seen that last week, though.
Right. So here we are. The storm is getting rough. Ship is tossed.
And the old aluminum sheet metal thunder.
All right. And stock footage. What's interesting is that lightning bolt that you see. I've seen that in many old TV shows. So that's definitely a stock footage that they use in a lot of different productions. So we have good old Bob Denver as Gilligan, Alan Hale's the skipper, Alan Hale Jr. to be exact. Jim Backus is Thurston Howe. And I can only skip through every few seconds. So we do have his wife, and we have Ginger, and we have Gilligan's Island.
Oh, never mind. I thought I pointed. I thought I'd seen something, but never mind.
Okay.
I thought I'd seen a couple different islands in the credits there, but I was wrong.
Okay. So it looks like we're opening here on a nighttime scene. Created and produced by Sherwood Schwartz, written by Austin Kalish. Elroy Schwartz was Sherwood Schwartz's son, one of his sons. He had more than one, so that's who Elroy Schwartz is. That's the relation. Directed by John Rich, and as we read previously, he directed most of the first season episodes. And we open up here where I'm going to be the first to admit I made a mistake. We actually do have Gilligan with a gun. At his post, supposedly, he's supposed to be keeping an eye out, and he's asleep. And I remember previously, in the first episode where he shot all the bullets, I had forgotten that there was, I had thought that was the last episode where there was with the gun. But here, they established they still have the gun. Not only do they have the gun, but they have other ammunition as well, which is what Gilligan is supposed to be guarding. And there you're standing there, and you see the little hut over to the right behind him, and Skipper coming out of the hut. That is their supply hut. So that's where they keep all their extra food and their flares and bullets and all that kind of good stuff.
Wait, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Why would they store that stuff in that cave that was in the first episode so that it's secured from any storms instead of a rickety old shack?
Well, if the huts they're sleeping in is waterproof, then this one should be, you think. And also, how far away is that cave? You know what I mean?
I still think the precaution. I will have built around that cave there and used that cave as the storage as an extra precaution. And hello to the lovely Sherry. But no, I used the cave as an extra protection.
I think your mic's cutting out. Is that me or you?
Can't. I don't know. Yeah, but
well, okay. Let's talk about that. All right. So then, let's say they discuss it and they say, well, yeah, but we want to be close to guys in case something happens. So then maybe they should have built their huts around the cave instead of over by the beach. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, they could have cleared out those. They could have cleared out
by the beach.
What was that?
Go ahead.
No, I asked what was that. Your last.
No, you said they could clear out. I didn't hear the rest.
Oh, they could have cleared out some trees so they could have a clear line.
I was saying, go ahead.
Oh no, they could have cleared out the trees there so they could have a clear line to the beach and all that there. Then use those trees as for their huts, you know. But then their stuff would still be protected from any storms that move in, and they'd be closer to that cave in case a big storm moved in.
Well, I don't know if they have the ability to clear out trees or not. You're talking about pull them out or what?
No, just chop them down. They got an axe.
Well, I guess I can chop them down. That's a lot of work. But I'm saying, but that's still assuming that the cave is relatively close to the beach. I don't know if they've ever established how far away it is from where the huts are. But it would make sense. I mean, if anything, I would even be sleeping in a cave, right? I mean, they've been in a cave.
I don't know if
I was sleeping there instead of out in a hut.
I don't think that cave was big enough for all seven of them to sleep in and all that, but.
Well, I agree there, but I'd say, hey, well, I know you guys don't want to sleep in the cave, but I will.
Because that cave is used quite a bit. So it can't be that far.
Well, they never.
I think
they do. Go ahead.
Because I think in one episode they moved all the stuff to the cave there. Then they realized they had too much stuff in the cave for them to even fit in the cave. I think that's a season or two away.
Oh, all right. Right, then I can't wait till we get to that. We'll cover it. And I wanted to, before I forget, something I wanted to bring up. I don't remember if it was last week or the week before. You were asking me, is it really realistic that they would be able to receive radio signals that far away from the main? Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, let me explain something, because I was thinking about that after, and I'm thinking it might be possible, and I might be possible. Here's why. Is I live in California, right? And the Central Valley, for example, I kind of live like kind of middle of California, all right? And not an FM radio, but an AM radio. AM frequencies travel further than FM. The radio that they use is definitely an AM radio. So, first of all, AM radio waves carry further. But let me put it this way. If here in California, if I turn on an AM radio, I can pull in all the AM stations in the area. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of interference, a lot of traffic during the day. When I mean traffic, I mean radio traffic, noise, channels, all that. Okay. But usually what happens late at night, like after midnight, 2 or 3 in the morning, when most of the stations are there, and the band is clear, and there's not that many stations on, I'm able to pick up stations in Oregon and Washington, not even that far away, because I remember how I first came across the Art Bell channel, where he talks about paranormal. It was on a distant, and that we're talking at least 300 or 400 miles away.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if there's no interference, if there's no other channels out there that are causing interference, or like a bunch of mountains blocking your way, it is possible for a signal to reach long distances. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
And greetings to Lemon Pie.
So here we have Gilligan asleep. Oh, thank you for watching the chat. Hello, Lemon Pie. Good to see you there.
Then
Sorry, I can't
lovely
see the
Cherry's
chat right
there
now because
too.
I'm going through the video.
Yeah, then lovely Cherry's there too.
Hey, hello, Lovely. Wow, I haven't seen Lovely Sherry in a long time. Lovely Sherry, welcome. I hope you like Gilligan's Island. We're just getting started. We just basically got through the beginning credits, and we're establishing here that Gilligan is supposed to be at his post guarding the supply hut. The supply hut is over on the right. You can see Skipper coming out. And this is when Skipper notices that Gilligan is asleep at his post, which is definitely a no-no. And there's Skipper walking, and he's over checking on the hut. And that's when he tells Gilligan, we're going to head off. And they're all coming out. And he's explaining to them what's going on and how important the supply hut is. And Skipper, you'll notice, Skipper has a flare gun. So Gilligan has actual and preparing. So if you're wondering why they shoot it during the day, I do agree that you can see them during the day, but they don't quite show up as much as they are as well as they would at night. That is that's my guess.
Yeah, can I point something out here?
Yes.
Gilligan's not practicing proper gun safety. He has his finger on the trigger.
That. Right, and look where it's pointed. Right, you're definitely not right. You think that Skipper would notice that?
Well, he always says that Gilligan shoots first. Well, he said that Gilligan always shoots first, and then there, so you always gotta be careful there. Well, I think it would have been funny if he shot Skipper in the shoulder, then he had to have the professor patch him up. But he couldn't get away with that in the 60s.
That might be right, but this is a comedy that might be a little dark if he actually wounded somebody with a bullet.
Yeah, this is. 60s.
But I see, but remember now, remember they did cover that here because remember Skipper was worried about that. So when Skipper wakes up Gilligan here, he taps him on the corner, on the shoulder, and says Gilligan. But remember, he doesn't trust Gilligan, so the first thing he does. And here he wakes up, Skipper ducks, right? So there he could and or would have shot Skipper, but Skipper knew to duck first. So that's great. And by the way, as you can see, it startled Ginger there. She wasn't expecting that. And this
wait, can you go back to that for a second?
Sure.
Does it not look like she's standing right in the middle of the fire? It looks like she's standing right in the fire in the picture.
No, she's a little bit.
Oh, just a glancing catch of that. It almost looks like she's standing right in the middle of it. Anyhow, go ahead.
She is very close, but
that dress will have caught on fire.
Can you hear me? Okay.
You're like popping a little bit, but not too bad.
I know, but I'm trying to figure out why is it doing this. Let me close. I'm gonna have to close some. Bear with me. It's got to be the internet traffic. All right, I closed a couple of windows. I'm gonna see if that helps. All right, here we go. I just
closed out of my thing here.
Well, I could tell because when that little background music I have playing, when that starts cutting out, I can pretty much tell that's when you can hear me. And this is where Skipper uses his famous line, "Thanks a lot, Gilligan." And Gilligan apologizes.
Thanks a lot, Gilligan.
Right. And as you can see, they're all amused, but not very happy.
Yeah.
And this is when Skipper explains that he's going to shoot the flare. And Mary asks, do you think it's going to work? And then Skipper says, that's the best hope we have at this point. And I like that everyone's there. They're all interested in see if they're going to get rescued. And you can see pals always wearing their best dinner clothing.
Well, the Howls are always dressed up, aren't they?
Right, but the clothes actually match what they're doing. If you think about it, during the day, like Mr. Howell, for example, Lovey, Mrs. Howell, is always in a nice dress. But Mr. Howell, you'll notice that during the day, he's like Hawaiian shirts on, like when he's playing golf and things like that. He's got his hat on. But this is like a dinner jacket. So I think they dress for this certain time of day, perhaps. And here we have, that's just my guess. Here we have Skipper shooting off the flare. And they have a little bit of flare going off. And there they are admiring the flare. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. And now, okay.
Yeah, Gilligan goes, no.
There for a second. Go ahead.
Now, most people, when they fall asleep like that, they'd lean forward and fall right into that fire. Because he went right back asleep.
Right, you would think so, huh? But I guess he's good that he can speak, Danny.
You think like the professor or Skipper go, hey, all right, Gilligan, you're tired. I'll take over from here.
Right, they do explain that Gilligan, for some reason, is totally exhausted. I think maybe the Skipper's been running him ragged.
Yeah. And that's when either Skipper or the professor or even Mr. Hall should take it over.
Well, Mr. Howell will probably be the last one to volunteer, but I agree it should be the Skipper or the professor, right?
Yeah.
And of course, the first thing the Skipper does is makes Gilligan promise he won't go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mic is cutting out, and so is the audio. I don't know what's going on. Okay.
Oh,
so
the music hasn't been cutting out on my end.
No, what it does is that when my audio cuts out, I can hear the music cut out, and I know that when the music cuts out, that means you can't hear me. Because my music and my mic are cutting out at the same time. Let me see if I can put some programs here. That'll help. I seriously, I know I've said before, and I'll say it again, but I need to definitely get caught up on extra RAM on my computer. Okay, so here we have Skipper notices Gilligan fell asleep once again. And Skipper goes over to wake him up. Same old thing again. As soon as Gilligan wakes up, Skipper ducks. Gilligan fires the gun. And Skipper asks Gilligan, how many more bullets are in that gun? And apparently that was the last bullet. And of course, Skipper is exasperated again. And he tells everybody to go off and go ahead and go to bed. And he says, Gilligan, you need to please stay awake, and I can't say everything verbatim. Obviously, we don't want to get stricken.
No, you can say it verbatim.
But I'll be...
Yeah, that's fine. You're not actually playing it. So... You there? Oh, I think we lost Pop here. Must be having a lot of mic problems. But I just like the look on Gilligan. He's scared of the Skipper there. He's like, yeah. I won't fall asleep. Oh,
Can you hear me?
now I can.
Now you can hear me?
Yeah.
Jeez, I wonder what this was working better last week. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out. I wonder why it stopped like that. All right. Yeah, there's something
Whoa.
going on. Oh, I'm losing internet connection.
No.
There it is. All right, now I think you can hear me. Is that right?
Now I can.
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
No, I think what I'm going to do is I have these little dog cages that I keep my dogs in when I'm at work. And I'm going to start putting them in there because when I come home and I settle down here with my laptop, the dogs are up here and they're constantly trying to get up in my lap. They're walking across the keyboard and they're walking across the wires. And I think that's why it's been cutting out.
Oh.
I keep them away from me to be okay. Poor dogs understand, but what can you do? All right.
I got a cat that keeps trying to get in my lap.
Normally, if I'm not streaming, they can come up and stay in my lap all they want. But how are you going to explain that to your dogs, right? Or dog or cat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Skipper is getting a little frustrated with Gilligan and says, "Please don't fall asleep." Gilligan promises once again, "I won't." And here's where they hear a noise. And Skipper is telling Gilligan, "You need to stay awake. There could be dangerous things out there." And Gilligan says, "Aye, sir," and immediately goes right back to sleep. What's that?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, scare Gilligan like that. You know, the guy who has a touchy trigger finger.
I know, right?
The one thing I did notice.
What's that?
Oh, one thing I noticed in this episode, though, they were making the weird like monster noises there to throw you off that it was actually a chimpanzee instead of or is it like something big, like a big monster instead of chimpanzee?
Right. The spoilers, everybody. Like you haven't seen this in the last 60 years.
Hey,
but yes,
spoilers go out the door after 55 years.
After 55 years, right? So they hear noise which sounds like growling in the trees. I don't know. It's not forest or woods, but it's trees, I guess. But Gilligan is scared for a second and immediately falls back to sleep. And there we have the bushes, and we hear noises, and we see some of the leaves rustling and moving.
Yeah, I would call it a woods, not instead of a forest. There, a woods.
Yeah, it would be woods because the trees are made out of wood, right?
Well, there you got your woods, then you got a forest, and then you got your rainforest, that all scaling up in size.
Well, that's true.
Or grove, then woods, then like a grove that surrounds a house, like a farmhouse, and that to protect the farm and that from like winds in the north and like winter northern winds. Because if you notice that most houses like our farms have trees on the west and north side to protect it from winds and winter. It helps in the wintertime to cut down the cold air blowing in the winter. But then you got like woods that could be good size from. They could be around half a mile wide and all that stuff. But then you got your big forest that, like you got in Canada north and around the west, out west there. But then you got your rainforest like the Congo and the Amazon.
Right, which is bigger than all of them.
Yeah. It's all scales up.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. By the way, everybody in the chat, I said hello, lovely Sherry Lemon Pie. Welcome for joining us. If you're in the chat, if you have any comments, questions, or if there's something that we say that is not correct, please feel free to correct us and let us know. If you want to comment, go for it. We're always welcome to know and open to new ideas. if any of you would like to ever join the panel and talk along with us, I left the link in the chat. That should be hopefully pinned to the top. So Gilligan hears the noise in the bushes and it wakes him up. And you can see how much it concerns him because he falls right back asleep immediately. And now we cut to the next day, nice and sunny day there on the beach. And there's Gilligan, who slept all night long apparently, and now he's standing there. And here's Skipper. I wish I could have caught that.
Yeah.
But Gilligan basically pulls out the gun, if I remember, and that's why Skipper hits the deck, right?
Yeah, and he fires there. Now watch, there's a boat coming to rescue him, and Gilligan just shot a hole in the boat.
Right. Well, a bullet hole would be easy to patch. It's the big holes in the rocks that are a little more difficult.
Yeah. And welcome, Cap Infinity.
Hello, Captain Infinity. Good to see you there. And there is Alan Hale there, and Gilligan helps him up. I guess I shouldn't call him Alan Hale. I'll keep calling him Skipper. And as you can see, no matter what happens, we've said Skipper will get frustrated with Gilligan, but he never gets really angry with him. And now they go to check the supply hut. And Skipper walks in. And the first thing you do is you notice, yes?
Well, the first thing he does is smack his head on the beam. Like, why wouldn't they make the door a little bit taller so that wouldn't happen?
Well, because then Skipper couldn't bang his head on the beam. But I know when I skip through these stills, that's just it. When I'm skipping through them, I don't have a choice of which ones it shows. But originally, when I took a screenshot, I did have the one where he hit his head, but unfortunately, that didn't come up on here. And this is when Skipper notices their supplies have been broken into. And as you can see clearly there on the box, it says spoiler signals. So that is definitely not good. That is something they most definitely need. And as you can see, the Skipper is in a panic. And he tells Gilligan, this is what happened because you fell asleep. And they realize they need to be more diligent. And they also realize that they need to find where those supplies are. That's all they have. And their only way to get off the island. And Gilligan says, leave it to me to help.
Well, he was going, maybe they came through the back door. Maybe they came through the window.
Right. We don't have a back door, Gilligan.
We don't have a window either, Gilligan.
I don't know why this is locked up a little bit. I had to kind of skip it. There we go.
Then he smacks his head again.
And then he smacks his head again, and he says, thanks a lot, Gilligan. And there's Marianne and Ginger on the beach. And this is where Skipper is explaining to them the supply hut has been broken into, that the supplies are missing, and they're going to have to go searching for them. And this is where Skipper is starting to get a little suspicious, and he believes that it may be voodoo. He had heard once before from some of his old friends that there could be voodoo on the island. And the professor tells him that's not possible. Of course, the professor is looking at everything with a scientific mind, so he's a little more level-headed. The girls, they're not very happy to hear that. They're scared either way. They don't know if somebody broke in. What they're discussing here is they don't know if somebody broke in that is living on the island. They're thinking it may be an escaped criminal, or somebody else on the island, or could it be somebody that maybe could help them get rescued?
Yeah. Hey, Gilligan's just going, you're right.
And Skipper says, everybody can't be right. And he says, you're right, Skipper. And this is where they're filling up jugs with water. Well, jugs, I mean by they have a canteen. Yes?
Yeah, and he's also filling up Skipper's shoes.
Yes. Well, Skipper is going on about this voodoo that he had heard about from old friends and old superstitions. And Gilligan's listening to him, and Gilligan gets a little distracted here. And it's spooking him. And Skipper seems to be fairly convinced. As you can see, Skipper is explaining to Gilligan. Gilligan is getting so wrapped up in the story, he's not paying attention. And that's why you see the water pouring out onto the ground. And we didn't get this still, but it actually, the water was pouring on Skipper's foot. And Skipper says, "Thanks, Gilligan. My shoe is full now." So here's where they're going to head out on their expedition to try to hunt down the missing supplies. And as you see, the professor there's hanging a little belt on with a knife. They don't have much to defend themselves, of course. And Skipper hands Gilligan the gun and says, "Here's the gun and a rabbit's foot." But there's no bullets in the gun. So Skipper tells him that if the gun doesn't work, use a rabbit's foot. So Skipper and Professor head off to search for water. Or to search for the missing supplies. And they tell Gilligan to stay behind there and keep an eye on everyone. And Ginger and Marianne are by the beach. Ginger's putting on her makeup,
which is made out of 3 different colored berries.
Right, 3 different colored berries, and she keeps them in a clamshell. And Marianne is still worried about if there's robbers or burglars or criminals or voodoo. So they're still pretty confused at this point, pretty scared.
Yeah.
And Ginger doesn't care. Ginger's excited. There's another man on the island. That's all she cares about.
Yeah. And welcome, Oiler Greg.
Hail, Oiler Greg. So good to see you. Glad you're here. Welcome, everybody in the chat. And if you, I know I said it before, but if you're in the chat and you like what you see, or if you like to join the panel, feel free to join us. And here's where Ginger is explaining her berries. She has, I believe it's raspberries for lipstick, blueberries for eyeshadow, and blackberries for mascara, if I have it right.
Yeah.
Which is pretty creative. And there we have Gilligan rigging up something. And Ginger and the girls walk over there and ask him what he's doing. And lo and behold, Gilligan is rigging a trap for whoever the visitor is in case they come back and try to steal more supplies.
Yeah. That's the one thing about Gilligan, though. He's really good at setting traps. Because he was going to set that trap in the first episode.
Right, with the cave.
Yeah. And now he set this one.
Right, now he's setting this trap here. And they're very excited, hoping maybe they'll catch whoever the assailant is. And as you can see, there's where Gilligan points out the trap, and he's trying to cover it with some leaves. And there's a rope that leads from the ground up to the tree. And he says, "Whatever you do, don't step on it." And then, of course, what does Gilligan do? The first thing he does is step on it. And what does it do? It pulls Gilligan up into the tree. So that means that it had to have a counterweight, a rock or something that had to be pulled down somewhere in order to lift his body weight. And of course, they didn't show how that was done or that was achieved. But I don't expect a lot from the show. I don't expect over realism.
Well, it only had 25 minutes.
Oh, right, 25 minutes. And the girls are panicking. They don't know how to get Gilligan down. And meanwhile, the Howls are in their hut. They put bars on their windows.
Oh, so they went ghetto style, huh?
They would get it. Well, this is actually fancy for the huts. They didn't have bars before. I don't even know if they had windows. And Gilligan comes to visit. And she noted, Mrs. Howell notices a drop of water on Thurston Howell's head, and they were realizing together that this is the first time that Mr. Howell has ever sweat. So they're so fascinated about the concept, they actually want to save it and put it in a bottle.
Yeah, it sent it home to his dad.
Right, to his dad. His dad would be so proud of him, right?
Yeah.
And Gilligan come to visit, and this is when Mrs. Howell's frustrated, and she said, "This place looks terrible. It looks like a hut."
You need that old but the
But that's just it. I can't do it justice. You have to watch the episode because, like I said, I'm paraphrasing, and you have to watch the episode because it's much more funnier the way they deliver their line from the characters, and that way you get them as they were.
Well, our job is to get people to go watch the episode.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping this will make you. Hoping you'll get frustrated and say, "I'm tired of looking at these slideshows. I want to actually watch this." It is available out there. You can buy it on DVD or Blu-ray, and it's also available on, I believe, Amazon and other streaming services.
Or there's always a means to watch something.
One way or the other, right? Oh, and we go back here. While Skipper's talking to the Howells, he can hear. Sorry, while Gilligan is talking to the Howells, he can hear the Skipper calling for him. So he says, "I better go. The Skipper's looking for me." So here is Skipper, or Gilligan looking for Skipper. I got to get the name straight. So Gilligan's walking through the trees looking for Skipper, calling out his name, and lo and behold, we find Skipper, who apparently had accidentally was snared by the same trap that Gilligan was earlier, that Gilligan built.
Yeah, I could tell that I knew that was so predictable right there. The Gilligan set in the trap, that was so predictable the Skipper was going to get caught in it.
Well, it was, right? But I'm glad that the Skipper did this stunt. It's a great stunt that he's actually hanging from his feet. I really like that he did that. He does a lot of physical comedy in this, and I really love it.
Here, I got a question.
Yes.
I got a question, though. How the hell's his hat staying on?
It's tight enough. Remember, he does take it off. So the band of it is tight enough where it will stay on his head.
Huh.
So it fits snug, I guess you could say. It's
But you
snug.
think that for the hat there, that just a quick flip upside down and up the thing would have been enough to jar it off, versus if it's that snug, that'd be giving you a damn headache.
Well,
Stay
I guess
after all that.
You would get a headache. Yes, I agree with that.
If it's that snug that stays out through all that, then that means it's going to give you a headache from staying on that tight.
And well, you see here, this is where Skipper gets frustrated. He does take the hat off, so we know it's not like glued to his head or anything.
Yeah.
And that's a strange cut there. Let me go back. There we go. And this is where Gilligan is struggling to help Skipper get down. And as we fade into night. And here's Skipper once again the next night at his post. Once again, of course, the mistake they all made is they trusted Gilligan again, right?
Yeah, and see, then why aren't they taking turns?
Or do you think they would, right? Or unless they're giving Gilligan the first watch. You know, maybe it's happening on his watch.
But this is the second night in a row.
Yes, it is.
But, yeah.
And Gilligan thinks he hears noise. So he's searching around where the noise may be coming from.
This is the only time we ever really see him do a watch. After that, it's doing a watch. You know, like having someone stay and watch. It's the only episode they ever do that.
Yes. Well, that's what's interesting is the show tried the best they could not to repeat themselves. So they tried to make it as much as possible that every episode was different than the one before, and not to, keep them original, which I think is one of the reasons why this show has such a lasting appeal, is they weren't getting it too repetitive. And Gilligan goes to check on the supplies. And as he's in the supply head, he hears a noise. And he turns around and he sees a shadow. and he realizes he's got his gun, but I don't believe he has any bullets at this point. But he realizes that the burglar's right outside, and that he's got to do something. And he's on the verge of panic.
Yeah, and Euler Greg says he's young, and so he gets stuck with watch.
Well, right. Well, Skipper's looking at it like a duty, like it's his duty, and I'm ordering you because these are passengers and they don't have to work, so they're just here to be passengers, and it's our duty here. I think Skipper always considered it like duty that him and Gilligan basically do all the chores and military procedures, protection, and things like that. But we know they all pitch in for the chores. And this is where Gilligan is supposedly attacked by the monkey. So we see a shadow on the wall, and then Gilligan pulls it, or it pulls it in. He pulls it in, or it
jumps on him. I thought.
wearing shoes.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think he jumped on him.
It did, but if you look right now, at this point, he's supposedly struggling with it, but it looks like it's whatever he's struggling with is wearing shoes. But I could be wrong. What do you think?
He does have shoes on. I didn't even see that. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I think he has shoes on.
Yeah, that's my cousin.
That's your cousin. Tell him next time. Remember to take off his shoes.
No shoes in the house.
Right. Exactly.
Uh-oh. We lost pop culture here. So, I don't know what the hell happened. Oh, he's coming back or what? But yeah, this episode here I would say was better than the other episode. I can't remember what the title of the other one was, but this one was a lot more entertaining than I would say the other one. And maybe I don't know what the hell happened here. So oh, there he is.
I know. I'm having internet. Well, I'm on my phone now. My laptop. The internet. It's been having internet issues. I'm going to pull it up, but it's coming up now. So I'll be right with you on my computer.
Okay. Yeah, Casper got him, Euler. Yeah, Casper got him. He says a ghost got him or a werewolf.
Okay, my phone's not going to handle this. I got to bear with me here. Even though I turned my phone off, it's still echoing. Okay, there we go.
I was going to say, if we need to, we can reschedule this for tomorrow night.
No, let me explain something. Okay, my laptop, I use an Ethernet cord that plugs into the side of the laptop. But this cheap laptop, the way it's designed is, our Ethernet cord has a little clip that you have to push the button to pull it out of the computer, right? This horrible laptop is designed, I don't know who thought of this, HP, but it's designed is all you have to do is barely move the cable and it basically unplugs from the machine. And when it does, it takes a few seconds for it to come back online. So I get to the point where I'm going to have to duct tape my Ethernet cable to the laptop because it will not stay in place. It's a terrible design, everybody. I do not recommend HP computers at all. Stay far away.
I don't know. I think it's everything's going universal, and it just has to be off by a micron there for it to not fit properly.
No, what it's the way the laptop is designed. It's designed to where I guess it's designed because they figure they're not able to push the little button to unlock. So it's basically designed to where all you have to do is push down on the cord and it pops out without pushing the unlock button, which is a horrible, terrible design.
I think you got the. I think you got the one with the upper tolerance of what's allowed to pass for the width or and height of the plug-in. Because you got a lower and upper tolerance
No,
of
they're all
how.
one size. It's an
No,
RJ45.
no, but like when you're making them in that, you're allowed various 0.000 what worth of an inch difference between this one and that one. There, it's a tolerance level of how much of how much of a difference it can be. You might have got an
Right.
upper difference that was allowed to pass, or someone didn't inspect it.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah. So
All right, let's see.
anyhow, Oliver says he hears growling. Growling. It could be a werewolf. Yeah, that's a terrible design.
It'd be a very small werewolf too, right?
Well, according to Gilligan, it was 8 feet tall, had claws and everything else.
Right. That's what happens. Is Gilligan is struggling with the visitor. I'll put it that way, and all the commotion wakes up the skipper and the professor, who I guess for tonight, for the time being, they're sleeping in the same hut. I guess because they want to be right there by Gilligan in case something happens, as I'm guessing. And they immediately run over to the supply hut, and as they run there, Gilligan comes running out of the supply hut. And this is where Gilligan is frantic, and he says that he was attacked.
Yeah.
And they're asking him, who attacked you? What's going on?
Yeah. Okay, if they're sleeping, why is he buttoning up his shirt?
Well, it's maybe it's hot. Maybe he was sleeping without a shirt on.
All right.
I'm guessing it's an island, so maybe hot and humid, possibly.
Yeah, that's right at the equator.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. Why they're not sleeping in the cave? I think those huts might be a little cooler.
Yeah, the cave would be cooler because those pond ferns and that bamboo there, they'll trap heat in there like nothing.
Well, it's not well insulated. You think air would be able to pass through it relatively easy, right? Since it's leaves.
No, but those leaves will trap the leaves. The pond leaves there,
right?
They'll trap heat.
Well, they could sleep outside, but then I don't know if they have to worry about mosquitoes or not.
Yeah, probably. And Euler Greg says the gun could have been an interesting addition to the series, but they didn't have any more ammo, and we don't see it again.
Right, we ran out of ammo. It didn't make it through the first few episodes.
Yeah.
The same with the flares or any of the other supplies. They don't last very long, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So Gilligan is panicking, and the professor and Skipper are running into the spy hut. But whoever the assailant or visitor was is now gone. And as you can see, Gilligan is still in full panic mode, and he's explaining to them that it was giant, it was big, it was jumping up and down. All the noise woke up the other castaways, and they all came out there. And Gilligan is explaining to him what happened, that he was attacked. Now remember, Gilligan was attacked in the dark. So he's trying to do the best to explain what attacked him. And Gilligan says that the attacker had him by the arms and was squeezing him. And Gilligan reacts a little too much and falls on the ground. And this is where Skipper's saying, I told you, I think it's voodoo. And Professor is trying to calm him down and tell him, no, that's just superstition. It's not true. But unfortunately, when he is mentioning these things, it seems to be scaring Mrs. Howell. Mr. Howell's a little more reasonable. Mrs. Howell doesn't like what she's hearing. And it also panics the girls as well. But as you can see, Ginger can handle it a little bit better than Mary Ann does. I think Ginger's a little more level-headed when it comes to superstition.
Well, Ginger's probably seen and heard it all in Hollywood.
Right, she's from Hollywood, right. Exactly. But Skipper seems to be totally convinced. It seems like no matter what the professor tells him, Skipper seems to be convinced that it's got to be some sort of voodoo. So here we have the next day, Gilligan and Skipper out looking for the supplies again. But the skipper has suggestion that maybe Gilligan should go one way and hidden the other. But Gilligan would rather stay with the professor. He doesn't want to go looking alone. Better skip more. I don't want to skip too much where I get a flag. So I'm going to skip.
You'll be fine.
What you just saw me doing was every 3 seconds. And that's probably, I'm thinking maybe I should do 5 seconds. Here's a 5-second skip.
Well, you're fine where you have. Yeah, but because if you were skipping too fast there, they might think you're actually, the bots might think you're actually playing it.
Right, that's what I don't want them to think is that I'm playing it, right?
You're doing fine what you're doing there. You're doing fine there. You can tell we're talking about it as we're going scene by scene.
Right, and we're not playing the sound, right?
Right.
Okay, so Professor takes off towards the left. Gilligan goes towards the right, and immediately Gilligan trips and heads down this mudslide, which might look like plastic. You never know, right?
Yeah.
And then as you can see, Gilligan heads straight into this mud puddle. And there he is.
That you never see again.
That we never see again. Well, at least it's not quicksand, right?
We see quicksand. We see quicksand in an episode.
Yes, I believe they do cover quicksand. Quicksand, what's interesting is back in the 1960s, it was a heavy trope. It was in a lot of TV shows and movies.
Oh, yeah. I know there's a lot of... Let's see in a lot of the 70s, too.
What's interesting is a lot back then, people didn't know. We all knew that quicksand existed. But a lot of us didn't really know the truth about quicksand. And later on, a little more research came out. Now we know that quicksand is not quite like they portrayed it in the movies and the TV shows.
What is it actually like then?
In the TV shows and the movies, they show people basically walk into quicksand or fall into quicksand and start sinking. But in reality, if you lay flat on quicksand, your body is lighter than the quicksand. If you lay flat, you can almost crawl out of it. And anything and everything that goes down in quicksand will eventually come back up. So if you do, and quicksand's usually not that deep. But if you manage to drown in quicksand and go under, your body will come back up eventually. I don't know if that helps you feel any better or not.
Huh.
And there's Gilligan clearing his face and realizing that he needs to clean himself. And then you can see that the mud is dry. So Gilligan heads over to the lagoon and jumps in the water. And now we see a little bit of bushes rustling and we hear some growling noises. And Gilligan takes off his clothes and throws them up on the beach so he can wash.
Yeah. And Oiler Greg says, quicksand was everywhere back then. Millions must have died.
I know it, right? Exactly. So here we have our rustling in the bushes. And we see our assailant, which is a little chimpanzee. Gorilla's cousin. There you are. And he took off his shoes.
Yeah.
So the chimpanzee comes out of the bushes and grabs Gilligan's clothing. And Gilligan is, as you can see, swimming. And as he's coming to shore to get his clothes, he realizes his clothes are no longer there. And he's scratching his head because he can't remember if he put the clothes there or not. So we fade to night and we have darkness. And here we are with but apparently is our third night. So we've had 2 nights, and here's our third night. And Skipper's building a fire, and supposedly Professor and Gilligan are still out searching.
And see right there, that wood shows that they have the means to chop wood.
Yes, they do.
So they could cut those trees down to use them to make shelters and all that. Then had a clear path to the beach.
Well, along with that though, but they've been cutting bamboo since the first episode when they built the raft. And in the second episode, they actually showed their tools when they were building their huts. And this is when they realize it's kind of late. Why isn't the Professor Gilligan returned yet? And Skipper seems to be trying to keep the girls calm, but he's not doing a very good job of it. And here's where the professor returns from his excursion. And they ask him if he found the supplies, and he says, no, he hasn't. And this is, say, well, isn't Gilligan with you? And the professor says, no, I thought he returned here. We got separated several hours ago. And here's where
well, the professor said he got lost.
He got lost for a few hours, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we know the professor's not stupid. So we know that if he's on the island and he got lost, that means the island's kind of big. And also, that was obviously, maybe he went into an area that he's never been to before, I guess, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So once they realize that Gilligan's not there, the skipper gets worried. And he decides he's going to go look for Gilligan, but before he can, he notices over there a little visitor.
Yeah. But in woods and all that, that it is relatively easy to get lost if you lose your direction.
It is. And you can normally, on a clear night, you can use the moon for direction, but if it's foggy and nighttime, then you're really in a bad shape.
Yeah. The professor could have probably gone around in a couple circles there, not quite realized it, because you have to turn all the time to dodge a tree, and then you keep turning in the same direction. You'll end up in a circle.
Right. If I was a nitpicker, what I would do is I would have suggested, Professor Gilligan, before you go out looking, Professor, can't you build a compass? I'm sure there's a way they can figure it out. There's a way to, like if they have a needle for sewing, which they've established here that they do sew their clothing, they could magnetize that needle and make a homemade compass.
Or what they could have done there. Well, what the professors should have done. This is the lesson that my dad taught me is you should have just kept going in one direction till he hit the beach. They knew he's on an island, so all he'd have to do is walk around the island till he got to where he recognized the beach.
That's what I'm saying. Then that depends on how big the island is.
Yeah.
Or if you're in the middle of the woods, a lot of people tend to go around in circles. Maybe he was looking for a beach, but he was going around in circles.
Yeah.
And Skipper is convinced that Gilligan has been turned into a chimpanzee, especially because the chimpanzee is now wearing Gilligan's clothing. And it's nice to see that the chimpanzee was smart enough to roll up the legs, right? So, obviously they don't show us who put the clothing on the chimpanzee, so we're assuming the chimpanzee put the clothing on himself, so he seems to be relatively smart. And as you can see, the professor is more humored about the situation. The professor is telling Skipper that's just a chimpanzee, but the skipper is convinced it is definitely his little buddy Gilligan. And as you can see, the chimpanzee is amused by the situation, but the skipper is very worried. And of course, Mr. Howell makes his presence, and Mr. Howell also said, "What is that chimpanzee doing here?"
I think he just said monkey.
Monkey, right.
There's a difference.
And Skipper's trying to tell him that this is voodoo, and Mr. Howell is slightly in believing possibly about the voodoo, but he's still not quite sure. But Skipper is convinced. So Skipper sits down and tells his little buddy to come up and sit with him. As you can see, they were able to cut that tree. That's a stump right there, right?
Yep.
Poor Skipper. And here's where you're telling him that I'll take care of you, little buddy. We'll stay together always. I'll get us a little house and we'll live together. But let's take those clothes off you. He tells the chimpanzee that you don't need those anymore. This is a great scene with Skipper and the gorilla. Chimpanzee. No offense, gorilla.
Offense taken.
Right. As soon as Skipper takes off the clothing, the chimpanzee heads off towards the woods.
Did he take his hat, though?
Oh, yes, that's right. Thank you. Before the chimpanzee went up into the woods, he did steal and grab the Skipper's hat. Thank you. And here we are a little later, and we have Gilligan out searching. Gilligan's looking for his clothing, as well as I think he's trying to find the huts. And he steps on something. And that's when he realizes that he found the lost supplies. So there's the flare boxes, and as you can see, they're canned food, which looks like beans, among other things, that is. And there we have the chimpanzee wearing Skipper's hat. And the chimpanzee comes and grabs the flare gun. And Gilligan sees the chimpanzee, and he's convinced that that is the skipper who has been changed with voodoo. And he feels very bad. And just like the skipper did before, Gilligan is telling the chimpanzee that, I'll take care of you, Skipper. We'll be friends, and we'll get a place together and all that good stuff. And Gilligan realizes that, hey, we found the supplies. Let's get them back. Let's go tell the others. And here's where...
Well, Gilligan must not be too lost if he didn't fire the flare gun to tell people where he's at.
Well, he could, but it's a good thing he didn't, because that'd be wasting another flare, right?
Yeah, but if he's truly lost on the island, would there truly be a waste?
Well, actually, it wouldn't be a waste at all, because even then, if you fired the flare, a boat might see it, or a plane, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is Gilligan takes off he's heading back to let the castaways know that he found the supplies. And at the same time, the castaways are out looking for him. So Professor Gilligan and the skipper accidentally bump into each other and fall into the ground, and they're struggling because at first they don't realize who is who because it's in the dark. So they think they're struggling with the bad guy or the visitor. The chimpanzee, I guess at this point. We all know there's no more spoilers. Yeah. And that's when they both realize that, hey, this is Skipper and this is Gilligan.
Yep. And Euler Craig says, now I'm hungry for coconut cream pie.
I know, right? Mary Ann's coconut cream pie.
And
the actress... Go ahead.
And he also said voodoo power made the professor get lost, maybe.
Possibly could, right? The professor's smart, but he's not perfect. And here's where Skipper is overwhelmed with joy. He's glad to see that Gilligan's okay, and Gilligan's also happy, likewise, to see that Skipper's okay. And now they realize that it was a chimpanzee all along, that none of them were being changed. But they realize that the monkey has the flamethrower, and they don't want the monkey to run away. They don't want to scare it. They're trying to get the flamethrower from it.
Flare gun.
The flare gun, thank you.
Yeah, he's the flamethrower.
Flamethrower. Okay, right. No, it wouldn't be a flamethrower. You know, that would be nice to have, probably.
Well, technically, here in a couple scenes here.
All right, well, that's true. And Professor is trying to talk the monkey into handing over the flare gun. But they're afraid of spooking the monkey. And there was my dog trying to get up here again. Don't do it, Pooch. Stay there. And as you can see, the monkey is amused, so the monkey's not frightened. So Gilligan thought he would try to convince the monkey. So Gilligan's going to try to speak to the monkey. And Gilligan tries to lure the monkey with a banana. And as you can see, they're all into this, and they're all watching closely. And there's Gilligan with the banana, and he hands the banana to the monkey. The monkey takes the banana and gives Gilligan the flare gun. And as you can see, everyone rejoices. Everyone's happy. And Gilligan has the flare gun at last. And the first thing Gilligan does is fire the flare gun, which heads straight into the supply hut. And Gilligan says, I'll go in there. And Gilligan runs into the supply hut. And they're trying to warn him and tell him not to go in there, but he does because all the ammunition is in there. The skipper yells out, that's where all the flames are. All the other flares are. Flares, sorry. Get tongue-tied here. Yeah, and as he does that, the place starts to explode and like a house of fireworks while Gilligan's in there.
Can we just be realistic here? Gilligan would be dead. Gilligan would be dead.
At least severely burned, right?
Well, no. There's so many going off in there. He would be dead. Well, it will have gone right through him. It will have gone right through him.
Well, and they're showing chunks of the hut flying everywhere, so it's actually blowing the hut apart.
Yeah, he would be dead.
And this is why we see all of them ducking for cover. And it looks like the fire is out, and the hut does not look like it's in very good shape. And here comes Gilligan coming out of the hut. So, of course, he is covered with soot and ash, but, he's not burned, which is a good thing. This is a comedy. We don't want to see Gilligan with third-degree burns, right?
Right.
Gilligan saved the flare gun, but I don't think he saved any of the flares.
No.
So this is why we will not see any flares in any future episodes. And of course, they're frustrated, and this is where they know that they've lost their chance of using a flamethrower again. And meanwhile, the next day, the girls are making breakfast out by the beach. And everyone gathers around the table, except Gilligan. And then that's when we have the monkey here, which has now been accepted as one of their friends, I guess. Even though we don't have a monkey in anymore. What's that?
Yeah, even though we don't see him anymore.
Right, even though we don't see him anymore. But it looks like Gilligan kind of adopted him as a pet temporarily. Maybe he runs away after this episode ends, before the next one, right?
Well, where would the monkey run away to?
Well, if he's a monkey, there's got to be more monkeys. So maybe he goes back with his family or wherever the other monkeys are.
Oh, not necessarily. The other monkeys died out. He's the last surviving one.
Oh, well, I guess Gilligan could have put him in a cage to make sure he didn't run off, right?
Yeah.
And there's Gilligan comes out from the bushes, and they're asking Gilligan, "What are you doing over there for?" And Gilligan feels bad because of what happened the night before, so he's hesitant to come up to the table. But of course, this is the castaways. They're like a family, and they say, "No, come and eat with us."
We'll beat your ass later.
Right. And as you can see, the skipper looks happy. The skipper is always happy. And of course, he comes up and tells Gilligan, "You're still my buddy." They're not gonna end this episode on a bad note where somebody's mad at each other. So of course they're gonna make up and be happy at the end. And then just as Skipper does that, he steps into the snare again. And here we go again. And there's Skipper yelling for help as we fade out. And the episode ends.
Yeah.
So that's the episode. Voodoo. I don't have the title in front of me. But that's it.
Voodoo Something.
Voodoo Something. That's the name of the title.
No, it's Voodoo Something and like another word.
Right, I know. I feel bad. So we're just kidding, everybody. We're just kidding. Everybody knows what the name of the title is. It's in the description of the video.
Here, just Voodoo Something to me.
Oh, see, so there's something. I knew there was something.
And the next one is Good Night Skipper. Or
Good Night,
Sweet Skipper.
Right. It's a play on the Shakespeare line, "Good Night, Sweet Prince," from Hamlet.
Okay. I haven't read Hamlet.
That's okay.
Shakespeare gives me a headache.
Shakespeare, well, then try some of your chicken bowl and read Shakespeare. Maybe it'll help get you through it.
Yeah, some of my LSD chicken, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, see, I got lucky in high school there. We read Romeo and Juliet, but our teacher, she gave us the Old English one, and then, like, it is split in half there. So, like, on one column, it was the Old English, and the second column was the New English. So if we had trouble translating something, we could just go look at the New English there to translate for us. I didn't even bother reading the Old English.
Oh, for shame. And when I have to admit, when I remember 8th grade is when we read Romeo and Juliet. And I love the old, we had only the Old English, of course. They didn't give us both. So we had only the Old English. And a lot of the kids in my class did struggle with it. The way we read it was, we'd all open our books and then they would call out, okay, like, Billy, you read this paragraph. And, Susan, you read this paragraph. So that's how they would do it. And a lot of the kids, go ahead.
Oh, keep going.
Well, I was going to say most of the kids were unable to. They weren't able to, but I was. By then, I had been reading Shakespeare, and I loved it. I love reading the Old English.
Yeah. And we actually got to watch the movie too. This was in ninth grade when we read it, then watched the movie. I never seen a bunch of guys get so loud and cheering when we get the one nude scene in the movie.
Do you remember what version you saw around when it was made?
The movie? It was an older movie, but I don't know which one it was.
Okay. I know the one that I saw was with Olivia Hussey as Juliet, and she was beautiful. I think it was like late 60s, early 70s, something like that.
It was in color. So I
Right.
think it's the 70s version that we got to see.
Oh, maybe you and I maybe saw the same version.
I don't know. That was... Fuck, this is probably 17 years ago now.
Oh, yeah. And for me, it was even longer, huh? But I give you credit. You remembered that much, right?
What, the nude scene? You think I'd ever forget a nude scene?
Oh, no. Of course not. Okay.
Euler Greg says Henry V is to war as Romeo and Juliet is to love.
Yes. And Lovely Sherry says hi. I'm trying to get caught up on some of these.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I
says
read every
read.
single one. I've read every single one of these for you.
Okay. Thank you. Right.
They were
exactly.
they were coming in at a steady pace, so.
And yeah, I appreciate you guys for the comments in the chat. I really appreciate that. Drilla, do you have any comments about this episode before we move on to the next one?
No, too bad my cousin decided to leave the show.
Well, sorry to hear from your cousin. I hope he found a job somewhere else.
Yeah, he was
funny.
driving.
Go ahead.
What was that movie that had the chimp driving the limousine?
Not sure. Do you remember about what it was made?
I'll Google it. He got a job driving limousine. I can't remember which movie that was though.
Well, that's cool. I know the monkey that was in this episode, if I remember correctly, there was a famous animal trainer in Hollywood at the time. It may have been Frank Inn. There was a few of them, but Frank Inn was one of them. But they would use the same animals in different movies and TV shows. So if I remember correctly, this may be the same monkey from, for example, Robinson Crusoe on Mars. Was it on Mars? One of the Robinson Crusoe movies, I know he came across a monkey. And there was a Disney movie too where there was a monkey. But those are very vague. I shouldn't remember them if I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, he got a job on Camel Run too. That's not the movie I was thinking of, but we'll go with that.
Okay. Fine. Okay. Let me adjust this for my size here. And we're going to cover now the next episode. There, get all queued up. All right. Give me just a second. I'm going to mute just for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. Holy crap. Yeah, we've been live for an hour and a half already? Huh. Man, I guess we were talking about that episode for... There's a lot to talk about that episode, apparently. A lot more than I was thinking that there was to talk about. Though I will say, that's the one thing that kind of irritates me with Hollywood is they never show proper gun safety in any movies. They always have the gun pointed at something with the finger on the trigger when they were planning on shooting. You know, that's always bugged me a little bit.
Well, you're right.
back?
I am back. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have taken gun safety classes, and I have shot with a bunch of friends where we've been out hunting or, out doing stuff in the woods with different guns. And the first thing you're going to notice when you're around other people is do not point that gun at other people, especially if you're not paying attention. And
the first rule is don't ever point the gun at anything you don't intend to destroy. Always assume it's loaded.
Well, no, right, but that's if you're aware of what's going on. We had people who were like just waving it around because they weren't thinking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So imagine if you're doing that around a bunch of trained hunters, all with guns. They're going to tell you once, maybe twice, but if they're going to tell you, if they have to tell you a third time, they're just going to start shooting you.
No, they'll take your gun away.
Well, possibly, but they're always joking though. They say, "Yeah, you keep pushing that, and we'll shoot you."
No, there's a difference of what they say and what they'll do.
Right. Well, especially if they're your friends, right? Hopefully they're your friends.
No, but that's the one thing that Hollywood could do good is always like show proper gun safety in this stuff, you know, versus the joke having the finger on the trigger and all that stuff and pointing the guns around and stuff. They could always demonstrate proper gun safety, you know, and would they could do good with that.
I totally agree, and and that reminds me. On several TV shows and movies, I can't remember which one specifically. I'll try to find them. But there are scenes where people are in a gun battle, and they'll show one of the persons hide behind a bush, like a row of bushes, and then they'll show the bullets hit the bush and ricochet off with a ricochet sound. I've actually seen that. I'm thinking, okay, I don't think a bullet's going to ricochet off a bush. It's going to go right through it and shoot whoever's on the other side.
Well, what happened is if it can hit a thick enough branch inside that bush, then maybe it get lodged in that bush, but it wouldn't ricochet. It just either get lodged in there or go straight through and hit you.
Exactly, right. But they even have the ricochet sound.
Yeah.
So, that's funny. Okay, so here we go with our second episode. Say that. This is our second episode of the night. This is actually episode number 4 of the show. And here we are heading out for our 3-hour tour, and there's the minnow.
And all this stuff.
And there we go.
For a 3-hour tour. You know, I gotta say, I think Gilligan's Island is one of the most iconic theme songs there's ever been to a show.
It totally is. And thank you for reminding me. The reason why Gilligan's Island has a theme song is because Sherwood Schwartz, when he introduced this to the networks, or when he pitched it to the networks and said, here's my idea for a show. And like I mentioned previously, he went from network to network, and he was turned down many times. But when the series was finally picked up by CBS, and they said, okay, you go ahead and make a series. They told him, they said, but how are you going to explain to the people watching out there in TV? How are you going to explain how all these people got on the island? What if somebody doesn't watch the first episode where they crash land or whatever? What if somebody tunes in during episode number 3 or 4? Everybody's going to wonder how they got there. So how are you going to solve that? And that's when Sherwood Schwartz said, well, we'll write a song from the beginning, which will always tell the tale of how they got there. Yeah. So that's the reason why the song is the way it is.
Oh.
And, yes?
Oh, sorry, I was just about to read the chat. There's 2 more chats.
Go for
it. And that's why Andy took away Barney's bullet.
The same reason, right, Barney?
Yeah, and he's doing the 3-hour tour.
Right. Yes, Barney did this. Barney had that trigger finger there, but he'd always shoot that one bullet. So Andy Taylor would make him keep the bullet in his pocket, in his breast pocket of his uniform.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched Indiana Griffith's show?
I've seen. It's been. That's been closer to 20 years.
Oh wow, yeah. It is a good show, and I do recommend it.
Maybe we could do that one after this.
Always possible. And as we can see, this episode is directed by Ida Lupino. Ida Lupino was actually an actress who later went into directing. She did comedy and some film noirs from like the 40s and 50s.
Film noirs, is that what I think it is?
Where it's like the old mystery movies from like gangster movies and stuff like that from the 40s.
Okay, that's not what I think it was. Okay.
What do you think?
Well, you're going noirs like as a fancy word for the old nudie films that they used to show.
No, 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 no. She was pretty clean cut. But
Okay.
since we're bringing up Ida Lupino, I know in my Star Trek TAS review last week, the Territon incident, we were talking about movies and TV shows where things grow, they shrink, or they grow large, because that was the plot of an episode. And I was mentioning then all the different TV shows that I really liked were like Land of the Giants. And I was mentioning a few movies about giants, like The Amazing Colossal Man. And I one of the movies, another movie that I'd forgotten to mention was a movie called Food of the Gods, based on a book by H.G. Wells. And that movie was starring Ida Lupino. And that was about insects, bugs, rabbits, and a whole bunch of wildlife that drunk this liquid that made them all grow to enormous, gigantic sizes. So if you can ever find Food of the Gods, I highly recommend it. Starring Ida Lupino and directed by Bert I. Gordon, the B.I.G. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, we were doing H.G. Wells for November there.
Oh, well, you are. Well, then I recommend Food of the Gods if you can get your hand on it. That website that you check out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can get it.
Yeah, let me know if you can find it. If not, I'll share it with you.
I was already planning on The Invisible Man, The Time Machine, and then Food of the Gods. Okay. There we go. Got November figured out.
I could probably come up with more right now when I don't have so much on my mind.
Yeah, but there's only we'll only have like three Sundays in November.
Okay, well those will work.
Because after Thanksgiving, we're doing our 6 weeks of Christmas.
Okay, nice. So Christmas movies.
Yeah, like I'm gonna do a double feature of Home Alone 1 and 2. Then we'll It's a Wonderful Life for sure on the list. The Christmas Story is on the list for sure.
Right.
I'm not doing Christmas Story 2. That one just sucked.
Thank you.
Rosalie Bear said Ernie Does Christmas.
Okay.
I might do a Christmas Carol. Now I gotta think of one more.
Now, when you say a Christmas Carol, there's been many of those. Do you know which one you're going to show?
I don't know yet.
What's your favorite Christmas movie?
Well, every year we watch. Every year we always watch It's a Wonderful Life and The Christmas Story. And no one really likes Home Alone there. Well, I think he just likes the line, "Come and get me, you big horse's ass." Because he was saying that all the way home the other day.
Oh, well, the kid discovered a new word. What do you know, right?
Yeah.
My favorite Christmas movie is definitely Bad Santa.
Yeah. So apparently, according to Euler Craig, Noir is French for black so dark films would be a good translation. Oh, dark in tone, lighting, and content.
Yes, I agree. They're dark. A lot of them are like mysteries and thrillers and gangster movies.
Okay.
So we open up here with somebody walking out of a hut barefoot, and I think we can kind of guess who it is. If you can't guess by the pants of the shirt, you can definitely guess by the pinky finger. Alan Hale Jr. always wore that ring, no matter what he was doing.
Well, you could tell by the belly, too.
And the belly. By the way, I met him in real life. And I even got his autograph. Shook his hand, and I even talked to him. And when I did, he was wearing these clothes. He was wearing the skipper hat, and he had that ring on. He was very nice. Very, very nice.
Must have been like a convention or something.
No, what it was interesting is I was in the Air Force. I was stationed on base at Travis, which is kind of in the Bay Area of California. And my family was in a different part of California. And I received a phone call from me saying that it was Christmas season and a big department store there was going to have signings of several celebrities. And she was telling me about it. I was like, oh, yeah, I don't know if I'm that interested. I'm on base. You guys are like a 5-hour drive away. I don't know. And she goes, well, one of the people that are going to be there is going to be the skipper. I said, what? I'll be there, of course. So I took the time off and made sure I was there. And this was now, we're talking mid 80s. Not a lot of people had video cameras back then. So I actually went and rented a video camera. It was very expensive at the time. I rented it for a weekend and it was like $50. It was very cumbersome. It was portable, but it was very cumbersome. And when you pushed record on it, it would start recording, right? You're recording the video, but when you push stop or pause, when you push pause, the video would not stop and it would just keep recording. And I didn't know that because I just rented the camera. So when I was recording the celebrities, there was about 6 celebrities at this table. And basically you walk and you say hello to the first celebrity, then go to the second one and go to the third one. I didn't know, but what I was doing is I was recording, all the celebrities sitting there. And then when it was time to go up to the table and actually shook hands, I put the camera in my left hand and I lowered it down where you just lower it, you're keeping your arm down. And the camera was under the table. And as I had my left hand holding the camera under the table, I used my right hand to shake their hand, say hello, hand my paper to them to get an autograph. And I spoke to them. And then I would pick the camera up and then record the next celebrity as I walked over to them, said, hello, I'm so-and-so, and record them. And they say hello. I would lower the camera down in my left hand, hand them the paper, and get signed and so forth. So I did that with each celebrity. By the way, I don't know if you know who Billy Barty is. He was there. He's another big one that was there, which was really cool meeting Billy Barty. He's a little guy that was in a lot of movies like Willow and stuff. Okay. So I didn't realize till I got home, I was so excited. I wanted to share with everybody. Here, look, everybody. I went and visited, I met all these stars and everything. And when I went to play the tape back, is when I found out the pause button wasn't working. So every time I hit pause on the camera, it was still recording when I put the camera under the table. And as I was shaking in my hands and talking to the celebrity, you could hear me talking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, so I'll put it this way. And this is what was so awkward and funny and original about this meeting with Skipper. Is I walked up to him, I recorded his face, and he's smiling and everything. I say hello and everything. Lower the camera, and like I said, I thought it was paused, and it wasn't, but it was still recording. So the whole time I'm talking to Skipper and going on, I'm recording his crotch, and I feel so bad. So we're all laughing at that. It's like, oh my goodness, I never thought I would do that. So proof, ladies and gentlemen. If anybody knows this is the Skipper in this picture, I can tell you it's the Skipper.
Well,
I'm not anywhere.
Well, TMZ will pay big money for that nowadays.
Yeah, these days I'm sure they would. People would put it all over the internet, but out of respect for Alan Hale Jr., I would never release it. I would never do that. But it was funny at the time. It was like, oh my, I was so embarrassed. I did that with each celebrity. There was male and female. So every time I lowered that camera into the table, it was still recording, and I recorded their crotches, and I felt horrible, but it was kind of funny. Okay. So here we have, finally back to this episode. Sorry, everybody, for getting off on a crazy tangent there.
And Oiler Greg says, wow, cool, you met the Skipper.
Yeah, yes, I did. I was talking, at the time, he had a seafood restaurant in LA, and I was talking to him about that. I wish I could have went to the restaurant at the time because apparently he would visit the restaurant dressed in those clothes and he would walk up to people and talk to them and shake their hands, and he was very friendly. Apparently Al Lewis from the Munsters, grandpa, did the same thing. He had a restaurant. He would go in there and he would talk to people and everything else. So I thought that was very, very cool. And on a side note, Alan Hale Jr. and Bob Denver both would visit children's hospitals and children's wards where children were critically in critical condition or in, either dying or close to death. And they would show up in those clothing, in their attire, and they would pull their stick and do their little act as Skipper and Gilligan for the kids. And I always thought that was excellent and exceptional. That was all volunteer, by the way. So here we have mysterious footsteps. We don't know who. We don't know who is supposedly walking out the hut at night. And it revealed to be the Skipper. And as you can see, he's in a state which we find out he's sleepwalking. And from here, Skipper is out shouting orders to people, and the shout that he's yelling out wakes up Gilligan. And Gilligan doesn't. Skipper says, "Attack! Attack! Take cover! Take cover!" So Gilligan wakes up and he's startled. So he crawls under Skipper's cot, and he's listening. And Skipper's giving out orders, and he's taking orders. Somebody's telling him about building a transmitter.
Yeah, but how did that not wake anybody else up?
Maybe their huts are a little further away.
Well, that still would have woken someone up.
Yeah, you think it would, right? So Gilligan realizes that Skipper's outside talking to somebody, or somebody's talking to him, but he's confused. He doesn't know what's going on. So Gilligan stands up, and he's got the cot on his head. And now is where Gilligan goes out to look for the Skipper, and he sees the Skipper standing on the beach doing something. Now the Skipper is pantomiming like he's repairing something, and what he's doing is he's hearing orders on how to convert a radio to a transmitter. Apparently, he's reliving a time from his past where he was in the war, and his commanding officer was explaining to him how to make a transmitter from a radio. And Gilligan sees this, and he's not sure what's going on. He's a little confused, but he walks out there. See what's going on. And the Skipper is busy in his dream state. Remember, the Skipper's sleepwalking. So he does not realize that Gilligan is standing there. And there's something I want to point out. I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but I'll point it out anyway. This is supposed to be nighttime, but I'm sure a lot of you notice that they're casting shadows on the ground. So you would think, well, this is pretty bright for nighttime. So there's one of two possibilities. This was a very, very, very full moon for a nighttime, or this was shot what they used to call night for day. And they still do that now. If small budget features or TV shows, they'll do this stunt here. It's called night for day. Usually when things have larger budgets and they're shooting at night, they actually just place lights throughout the shooting area. But essentially what night for day was, they would shoot during the daytime. Like it could be full, 1 o'clock p.m., 2 p.m., bright sunlight. But they would turn down the aperture of what's called the f-stop on the camera to allow less light into the camera. So by allowing less light into the camera, when it exposes the film appears to be darker. So it's like a cheap way of cheating and making it look like simulated nighttime.
I just thought it was a full moon.
Here you are, you thought it was a full moon. They could have showed a full moon. It would have been nice. They could have got a stock footage and showed Gilligan look up at the moon and show that it's full. But essentially, that's why, if you guys are ever wondering why there are so many shadows during nighttime, that the term is called day for night. That means they shot day for night. They shot it during the day, turned down the exposure on the film to make it look darker. And here we are, Skipper reading instructions. Gilligan confused. He doesn't know what Skipper's reading, considering he's reading from his hand. And Skipper seems very sure of himself. And there he is, Skipper responding to orders from the captain up above, which I'm assuming is in the crow's nest. Yeah. And Skipper thinks that he's down on the deck.
Yeah, this is where we found out that the Skipper was on Guadalcanal and all that, yes. Which stems from World War II. Is one of the first battles that we had in the Pacific there after Pearl Harbor was bombed there, and it was a very fearsome fighting there with inexperienced soldiers going up against experienced Japanese soldiers. Now, I really don't believe that the Skipper would be this calm in the middle of a battle like Guadalcanal.
Well, you can't panic if you're on the ship and you're if what hits the fan, you can't panic. So I think
but they're in the
well. What's that?
Yeah, but these are inexperienced soldiers.
Well, maybe how about this? Maybe from his memory, maybe what happened during that time when he was there, maybe they weren't under attack. They were in the area, but maybe they weren't actually under attack.
Well, they had dive bombers coming in and attacking the ship.
Was that what he said?
Yeah, because that's why Gilligan jumps in the lagoon.
Oh, that's right. This is where Gilligan is waving his hand in front of Skipper because he doesn't realize that Skipper is not awake. And then this is where he does at the same time realize that Skipper is asleep. And Skipper says that he needs a screwdriver. So he grabs Gilligan's hand and his forefinger, thinking that's a screwdriver. And there he is making repairs on his imaginary transmitter. And here's where he says he needs wire cutters. So he grabs Gilligan's hand again with 2 fingers and uses those as wire cutters. And Gilligan still doesn't know what's going on, but he's going along with it just for the Skipper.
Yeah.
And there's Skipper, of course, replying back to whoever's giving him orders. And there you are. There's the dive bombers, right?
Yeah.
Skipper notices the dive bombers and the planes overhead.
See, I was you'd expect halfway between how calm the Skipper is versus how freaking out that Gilligan's getting. You'd expect something like halfway in between.
Well,
not
not
necessarily jumping in the water, but
right. But it doesn't look like Skipper is. I can't remember the exact words that Skipper says, but whenever he says dive, isn't that what he says, or something like that? I think it was something like that triggered Gilligan into jumping into the water.
Yeah.
And there's Gilligan diving into the water. And Skipper, still asleep, does an about face and heads towards the hut and back to bed. And Gilligan in the water still does not quite understand what's going on. Gilligan walks back into the hut. By this point, Skipper's already back in bed and fast asleep. Gilligan walks over to the Skipper, and when he does, some of the water from his hat drips onto the Skipper and wakes him up. As you can see there's the water hitting Skipper's face. And the Skipper yells at Gilligan, "Why are you wet?" And Gilligan tries to explain to him, because you were out on the beach. And Skipper doesn't quite believe him. He thinks Gilligan was sleepwalking. And here's where Gilligan was trying to say that he was using his hands for wire cutters. Skipper doesn't seem to be satisfied with the explanation and laughs it off and tells Gilligan to go to bed. And now we cut to the next day. And we have the Skipper and the Professor with the radio, listening to reports. And this is where they hear there's a woman pilot, apparently in an airplane, who's flying within the area, and she's going to be flying over the island. They're trying to determine where she is, how far away she is. And Gilligan overhears the conversation when Skipper says, "Well, I wish we had a transmitter or some way of contacting her." And then Gilligan is walking by and he hears the conversation. He says, "Well, why don't you just fix the transmitter like you did last night?" And they don't understand what he's talking about. They say, "Gilligan, you don't know what you're talking about. You must have had a dream." And Gilligan says, "No, you had a dream last night. I woke up. I came out here. You were doing this." And Gilligan's explaining. And Skipper still doesn't believe him, of course. And the Professor, as you can see, is just confused.
I wonder if that is possible, turning a radio into a transmitter.
I know you can make a speaker into a microphone. I've done that.
So that'd be the same thing.
Maybe not. That's just, what's interesting too is this is one of the scene. This is a scene here where the Professor doesn't know everything, right? You would think the Professor might know that, but he's not. His specialty is not electronics, apparently.
Yeah, and Euler Greg says perhaps the trauma of battle is why the Skipper can't remember the repair procedure.
Also, Skipper keeps having nightmares or dreams about it, right?
Yeah. Well,
PTSD, I guess, would be prior to PTSD.
It'd be battle shock in World War II.
Shell shock.
Shell shock. No, wait, shell shock was World War I. Battle fatigue was World War II. Then Vietnam was they changed it again to PTSD.
They recognized PTSD that long ago?
Yeah, George Carlin actually had a bit on this, 'cause how they keep changing the language and all that, and he
Right.
used that as the example. It, yeah, where he's talking about World War One, we had shell shock, about nice, simple. Yeah, almost sounds as scary as the Jigs. Then we get to World War Two, when we soften the language a little. Battle fatigue, four symbols, not nearly as shocking, but then we get to Vietnam. We still got four symbols, but they added a hyphen. Post traumatic stress disorder. He had a whole bit on it. It's pretty funny.
And in every case, drugs. They always use drugs to medicate, right?
Oh yeah. Well, what, you expect anything less from the government?
I know, that's exactly the point, right? Just give them some drugs and send them away.
Oh hell, up in Canada, they're offering euthanasia for them. Angry cops there. He went on a whole big old rant about that.
Well, if it's euthanasia, I guess you don't have to worry about nightmares anymore. And here's where Gilligan makes the suggestion, say, why can't we do a transmitter like you said in your dream?
Yeah.
And once again, of course, Skipper says that makes no sense, Gilligan, and then Professor comes up with an idea. Hey, wait a minute, maybe it's possible. And they're saying that, well, if Skipper was able to do it on the ship, then maybe we could do it with our radio. But they asked Gilligan if he can remember what Skipper did, and Gilligan doesn't remember. He says, I don't know what you did.
But with Gilligan starting mentioning like the main coil and all that, and the screwdriver wire cutters, you think something would come back to Skipper?
Possibly, but they're making it look like it was a long time ago.
They're using it the same year as the movie was shot in. That'd be 22 years beforehand.
Well, and not only that though, but isn't part of PTSD, shell shock, whatever, is your mind trying to push it back and forget about it. So maybe that's why he's got like a mental barrier. You can't remember.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, if it's a traumatic event, right?
Yeah, it'd be traumatic amnesia, I think it's called.
Possibly. So here's where they come up with the fantastic idea that, hey, maybe they could possibly do it. And Skipper remembers at this point, yes, I did do it. I just don't remember how I did it. And this is where they're talking about, it's too bad they couldn't remember. And they come up with the idea that maybe Skipper, if he dreams again, maybe he'll do the same thing and recreate the dream again. Here we have Skipper laying in bed, trying to go to sleep. Everybody's trying to encourage him to go to sleep so that he'll have the same dream and he'll get up and he'll try to build a transmitter so they can all figure out how to do it. And there's a professor right there waiting for instructions on how to make the transmitter. But unfortunately, of course, Skipper's having trouble sleeping. Here they are offering suggestions, and Skipper says he has tried everything. So they say, well, let's go outside and give him some peace and quiet. Let him sleep. And Professor tells Gilligan we need to be absolutely quiet. We cannot wake him. He's asleep. And Professor says that he's tired. As you can see, he stretches. And he says he's going to take a nap. And there's Gilligan checking on the Skipper. And Gilligan made a sign saying, quiet, do not disturb. That's very thoughtful.
And he's about to pout it into the wood.
Right next to where Skipper's head would be, right inside the hut.
Yeah, he wouldn't put it on the door. He wanted to put it right where Skipper's head would be.
Right. So that's definitely guaranteed to wake him up. So Gilligan places the sign in place and holds the nail, and then takes a swing with the hammer. And just as he takes the swing, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say right where the professor grabs it. that's a lot harder to do, grabbing the hammer that someone's about to swing than it looks, because I've tried doing that to my coworker a few times. When he's swinging the hammer, I'd come up behind him and try grabbing it on him. It's a lot
Right.
harder than the professor made it look.
Well, it would not only that though, but if they're swinging a hammer, they're probably holding onto it pretty tightly, right?
Yeah,
Did they let go of the hammer, or did they hold on to the hammer?
well, when I was doing the pounding at work there, Brandon did that to me a couple times. The sudden shock of someone grabbing it makes you let go.
Oh, so you did let go?
Yeah, but he had a hold of it. But because you're expected to go forward, and also going back, then your mind triggers you to release it.
Right. Well, and that's what happened here. Gilligan was just getting ready to swing to hit the first hit on the nail, and before he could, the professor grabs a hammer from his hand, and Gilligan, not knowing it and not expecting it, basically collapses into the sign or crashes into it, I guess. And he starts to yell from the pain, and the skipper muffles his mouth so he doesn't make any noise. We don't want to wake the skipper. And he says, "I remember now that skipper's just falling asleep. We don't wake him up." And there we are. Skipper walks back in there, and somehow miraculously the girls manage to make it in, and they're singing a lullaby to Skipper to try to help him sleep. Oh, nice. And Gilligan decided to come in and join the fun with the lullaby.
Oh, that made me so funny. They have him asleep with what was it? What were they singing? It wasn't like Rockabye Baby. It was.
I can remember. And I wonder if it was. Is it copyright? Is it an actual song? I can't remember.
It's an actual song.
That's why I miss having Jill here. Jill knows all those kind of facts. She's good.
Well, if you do just the part where like a word or two before and just get the part Gilligan's get in, I think you'd be fine. I'm not quite sure. I'm not in control of it.
There it is, Rockabye Baby.
Yeah. Then Gilligan sings really off key and wakes Skipper up.
Hey,
Hey, speaking of anti-derivative, Jill. Hi, Jill.
Hello, Jill. Welcome. I was just talking about you saying how much smoothly and better these things go when you're around. You have a better memory than I do. Jill writes everything down, and she could have answered a lot of the things we were wondering about.
That takes the fun out of it. I do all my stuff unscripted because it takes the fun out of it.
Well, yes,
and hello, Basil Battle Dragon.
Hello, Basil Battle Dragon. Welcome back, everybody. Good to see everybody in the chat. When I'm monitoring the video here and I'm showing the slides, I can't see the chat as well because it's covered up. But Gorilla does his best at keeping us abreast with what you guys are saying and reading them.
Jill said, "I'm here, but I didn't watch this episode recently. Great, you found it."
Yes. Thank you, Jill. Yeah, and I do recommend, obviously, that you do go and watch it. It's a great episode. And I don't know if you guys have noticed or not, but I am showing clips from the Blu-ray version compared to last week. So hopefully they're a lot sharper and clearer than it was last time. So Gilligan walks in, and they're all singing Rockabye Baby. And the women have beautiful voices. Unfortunately, Gilligan does not. So yes, Gilligan is not only off key, but he's too loud.
I thought John Denver could, or
Bob Denver.
Bob Denver. There. Yeah, I was thinking of the country singer.
I always used to get the names mixed up too, so that's okay. You're not the only one.
I thought he could actually sing though.
Maybe he could. But just like Lucy, remember her character could never sing, but in reality she could. So yeah, that's part of the character, right?
Yeah, I don't think I'm. Oh, it's sure. I think I've only seen like 1 or 2 episodes of I Love Lucy.
Wow, yeah, you definitely need to check out I Love Lucy. That's a must have for anybody. And there's where Gilligan doesn't look happy because with his loud voice, he accidentally wakes up the skipper, of course.
Yeah,
and there's
that's a poster-worthy picture right there. That's poster-worthy.
It is. It's perfect because the professor is frustrated because they just woke up the skipper, and Marianne is not only frustrated, but you can see Marianne had a paper and pencil there ready to take notes, in case the skipper was going to give instructions about the radio. So
Yeah.
I like that. She's all ready to go.
Okay, and Jill says, that's why I have such good memories because I have notes. But fun is subjective. I like taking notes. And then Oiler Greg says, my chat from last episode is still stuck up there too. LO. Oh, for the gun thing. You left the gun one up.
There we go. I apologize for that, guys.
No, you're fine.
Go. Thank you, Oiler Greg, for bringing that to my attention.
Oh, was I supposed to bring that to your attention?
No, Oiler Greg brought it to my attention, so that's great. I appreciate that. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so this is Skipper, as you can see, waking up, and he doesn't look too happy either. And frustrated, the professor is next to the beach with the radio, and they're listening again for updates. And they hear once again that the flyer is within the area, and she's saying that she'll be. Now remember, the flyer does not know that they're down there on the island, but they're aware of her, and she's basically giving news reports to the news. She's kind of playing like an Amelia Earhart character, is what I'm kind of guessing. And here's Skipper trying to take a nap, and he's exhausted because he hasn't had any sleep from the night before. And they even mentioned, maybe he can drink some mango juice, and he had 28 cups of mango juice. But he is doing his best to go. There it is, right? No more juice.
Yeah, because he says he doesn't want to see it. No, it's coconut milk. That was coconut milk. Because I don't want to see another.
It was like a diarrhea. That's right, coconut milk.
He goes, I don't want to see a damn coke. He'll be happy if he never sees a damn coconut again. He'll be happy to never see a damn lamb chop again. He goes, why's that? They've already counted like 27,000 sheep.
Right. Except, right, you're right about what he said, but without the word damn. That's only right. This is the Skipper now, so he didn't say damn.
Well, if it's the Skipper, then it's a lot harsher words.
In real life, right. But, of course, this is a family show.
Well, the kids got to learn early.
Kids got to learn early, right. And if they're going to learn anything from anything, it might as well be Gilligan's Island. And
it really damn's not that bad of a word.
What's that?
It really damn's not that hard of a word.
Right, but in the 1960s, it was not something you'd see in a family show. And what's sad is I really like the optimism and the innocence of television back then. Now it is horrible. I mean, they say every cuss word on television, and it's just Star Trek. The new Star Trek is a perfect example. It's terrible. I mean, the new Star Trek is exactly a cuss word. It's shit. So here we have the professor is kind of exasperated and tired, saying that we wish Skipper would go to sleep. Here we have the howls. And this is where the professor comes up with an idea. Well, if we had some tranquilizers. And Gilligan said, well, don't the Howells have pills? And the professor says, yes, Mr. Howell's popping pills all the time, which we have not seen on camera, and I don't think we're going to ever see on camera. But basically, they're using the idea that since Mr. Howell's rich, that he's got a lot of pills because he's always popping pills. So Gilligan runs over to the Howell hut to ask them. Mrs. Howell probably almost poked her eye out with this pineapple. You probably think they're going to cut the top off. Here comes Gilligan into the scene. Oh, nice. Gilligan took off his shoes. I guess he's supposed to take off his shoes when he's around the Howell hut. And this is where Gilligan asks the Howells if they have tranquilizers. And Mr. Howell says, absolutely, I do. I'll go get some. And Mrs. Howell says, no, Thurston, you stay right here and I'll go get them for you. And here's where Mr. Howell makes another crack about his marriage. And by the way, that joke, Jim Backus was hilarious. And every time he makes a crack about marriage, it's funny. He loves Lovey Howell. We all know that. He's dedicated. They love each other. but that never stops him from making a crack about marriage, which is something you'd expect from a middle-aged man.
Yeah, you remember the joke?
Oh, he said, it always. I don't want to paraphrase, and I don't want to mess the joke up. But it's something along the lines of it's always great to have a nice woman around to help you with things like these. And Gilligan says yes, and Mr. Howell says yes. Just don't let your wife find out.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's almost
Right.
word for word.
Right. And then Mr. Howell laughs and says, "Ha ha ha! Just a joke there."
A marriage joke.
Right, just a marriage joke. And here comes Mrs. Howell out with a small attaché case, and she seems to be struggling with the weight of it. It seems to be relatively heavy. So they set it down and open it up, and lo and behold, we have a pill store there with some, of course, money on top. And Mr. Howell says, "Now, how did that money get there?" Mr. Howell, money stashed everywhere.
Now, if the cops would have found that, then they would have gotten them on dealing there with the money, because they'd had the money and the drugs.
Right, the money and the drugs these days, that would be that sets you up the river for a long time, right?
That'd be automatic. That'd be automatic dealing there, and that many damn pills there, that'd be a good 20, 30 years there at least, depending on your state.
You would need somebody with Mr. Howell's money to get you out of that, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Howell can afford good lawyers.
Well, Mr. Howell's buddy, 6 months probation.
Oh, Howell in prison? I don't know about that.
No, 6 months probation with Mr. Howell's money.
Well, even probation, he'd probably put one of his servants on probation just to serve it for him.
No, the judge won't allow that, but it's not like they'd be doing community service or anything.
Right, like Jean-Jacques Gabor did. Okay, so Mr. Howell says, absolutely, you can have some of these pills. So there's where he says, how'd that money get there? And they take the money out of the attaché case. And as you can see, Gilligan is overwhelmed by the amount of pills. As you can clearly see, Gilligan.
Yeah, and the tranquilizers were for so that you don't care that you're taking all your other pills.
Right, that's what he said. That way, I guess, take a couple tranquilizers. Then it makes it a lot easier to swallow all the other pills.
Mm-hmm.
And Gilligan asks, "Can I have some?" And Mr. Howell says, "Just take the whole bottle. I have plenty."
Mm-hmm.
Gilligan immediately takes off. And this is where Mr. Howell pulls out one of the bottles. And it says, "Pain reliever, works fast, fast, fast." And Mr. Howell throws it and tosses it aside. And he says, "Nobody can rush a Howell at anything."
Mm-hmm.
Back to that look on his face. And now we settle it. Now it looks like time has passed, so we see the nighttime. And it looks like Mary Ann's cooking dinner, which is swordfish.
Wait, how'd they manage to catch a swordfish? Those things are freaking huge. The fishing pole wouldn't have been able to handle that.
That's what I was asking you when you were talking about the fishing pole in that other episode. I'm wondering, are you sure they couldn't pull the swordfish?
No, it must have been a baby one because that fish pole wouldn't have been able to handle an 800-pound swordfish.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. And as you can see, they have the radio there standing by in case there's any reports from the pilot.
Yeah, plus swordfish don't get wouldn't get that close to a shoreline because they grow so big they need deep water.
That's what I was thinking too. They probably would have to be out there in deep water, right? Usually it's deep sea fishing to get swordfish.
Yeah.
What if they found it washed up on shore?
Yeah. Well, if it's still flopping, it'd still be good.
Oh, well, that's true. Then you just club it. No offense to any animal or fish lovers out there. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I fish all the time.
Okay, so here's Gilligan. He has the tranquilizers in his hand, and he's talking to Mary Ann. And he's explaining to her that we have these tranquilizers. We're hoping they'll work with the skipper. Mary Ann seems to be excited about the idea. And so what Gilligan does is he takes a couple pills and he drops them into Skipper's drink. And he takes the pills and he sets them there on the table, or he still has them in his hand. And he gives them to Mary Ann, but he does not tell Mary Ann that he put some in the drink. So Mary Ann has the pills in her hand, and she gets a wonderful idea. So she walks over, takes 2 pills, and also drops them in the skipper's drink. And she's happy for herself for coming up with such a wonderful idea. And as she goes back to cooking, here comes Ginger. And
she burns the swordfish.
What? She goes, "What are we having?" He said, "Burned swordfish." And Ginger says, "It smells wonderful. Burn the other side too." And Ginger's walking along the table to look and see what they're having for dinner. And Ginger spots the bottle of tranquilizers and says, "Wow." And Ginger comes up with an excellent idea. Maybe she'll take a couple of those pills and put them in Skipper's drink. And she walks back and she tastes the food. Apparently it's not so good. Remember now, Mary Ann, they've not been on the island that long, so Mary Ann is still experimenting with cooking seafood and island fare, I guess you could say.
Well, Ginger's more just a higher class food too.
Right. Highfalutin. But I'm sure Ginger's used to eating caviar, and that stuff stinks. And here comes the professor. Yes.
Well, she seems more like a lobster tailed steak kind of gal. Well, maybe not steak, but
maybe not
or you
steak.
get the like a blackberry feta salad.
Right. She's the type where, she probably has rich men taking her out on dates. So she's probably able to pick the most expensive thing on the menu, right?
Yeah.
But she's always got to watch her figure, I'm sure.
Yeah, so she probably have like a blackberry feta salads and stuff like that.
Exactly. So here's this professor, and also coming along, and she can check and see what's for dinner, and he says it smells wonderful. That dinner on the table does look wonderful. I mean, there's melon and there's pineapple and everything else. And Professor notices the pills on the table as well, and he comes up with also a wonderful idea and decides to take a couple pills and also put them in Skipper's drink. It looks like his drink is almost full at this point. And he takes the pills and hides them under some bananas. And now here comes the Skipper coming along for dinner, and Gilligan's rushing him, and Skipper saying, hold on. And they're seating Skipper down, who apparently Skipper always sits at the end of the table because everybody knew which cup was his, I guess. I'm assuming. And there they are. Is Gilligan is in a hurry, so he's rushing Skipper to take a drink. And Skipper says, "No, I don't want to take a drink of that right now. I've had enough."
Well, anybody who's pushing that hard to give me the drink or eating something, I'm suspecting they're trying to poison me.
Right. Hopefully your little buddy wouldn't do that. You'd hope, right?
I don't know. He might have had one too many orders from the Skipper.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't want no damn mango juice.
Right now it's mango juice, not the coconut, right?
Right.
So we have Skipper sees the pills and he says, "Wow, maybe if I take a couple of these, it'll help me sleep." And everybody's afraid to speak up. As you can see, Gilligan's like, "Oh no," because nobody told each other that they put the pills in the drink. So Skipper pops a couple pills in the drink and swigs it down. And immediately, damn, he's asleep.
Can we be realistic here? 10 tranquilizer pills? He'd be dead. He'd have gone into cardiac arrest and died. They would not brought him back from that at all.
Well, hopefully not. Maybe it'll take more than 10. I'm thinking maybe the dosage isn't so high.
No, that's still 10 tranquilizers. That's a powerful. Plus it knocked him out right away. That's overdosing.
Well, now remember now, when he drank it from here to here, he didn't drink it and then spud and fall over the table. They kind of showed time passing, so a little bit of time did pass.
Yeah. Well, as fast as he did. Right. That many tranquilizers there with Thurston Howell the third's kind of money there. He gone into cardiac arrest and died. One pill would have been enough for even a guy that size, but And even if he would have done 2, he would have probably been fine. But 10 pills, that would have killed him.
Well,
He's not in the best of health. He's not in the best of health to start with, and then you're doing either 5 to 10 times the dose that you that you could take of that.
Right. Well, it's a good thing he's a big guy. Imagine if they gave that much to Gilligan, right? Little skinny guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Skipper is pretty much passed out the table, and that's when everyone is surprised. They don't understand how 2 pills could be so strong. And then that's when they realize that Gilligan admits, well, I gave him 2. And the professor says, well, I gave him 2. And then Ginger says, well, I gave him 2. And Marianne gave him 2. So in total, they gave him 10 pills. And here's where they're concerned. They don't think the skipper's going to wake up to give them the information that they need about building the transmitter. And you can see, at least they are worried about him. And Skipper wakes up in a delirium. And he is sleepwalking. He's not aware of them. He's acting more drunk, if anything, very woozy and drunk. And that's why you see them help keep him stable so he doesn't fall over, which he almost does a couple times. And he seems to be in a happy mood, so that's good. And look, Marianne, right on time. She got her notebook and pen. And there's where Skipper does fall over finally, and he pins Gilligan's arm underneath him. And the Howls come out, and Mr. Howell with a wonderful line, "Oh, look, Lovey, we missed cocktail hour." Thinking that they're drunk.
Yeah.
And here's the professor listening with an update, and the pilot, they're listening to her reports, and they're noticing that it sounds like that she's getting closer because the volume is coming, the signal is getting louder and louder. And then Professor estimates that she could be over the island at any time. I've got to mute for a second. I'll be right back, Gorilla.
All right. Yeah, let's see if there's any new chats here. Oh, we still got Livid Pie. He said, "Hi, Jill." We read that one where my chat from the last episode is still stuck up there. Oh, shoot. Oh. Let's see, we got the... Oh, there we go. We got the skipper in the background. He's finally going and sleepwalking and stuff. So he's starting to sleepwalk again. They finally have their notes that they need to take to actually do it. So let's see. We got Gilligan's foot catches on fire and stuff. Oh. Oh.
Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. And I'll be back too. I think I kept the troops entertained. All the chats are caught up.
Thank you. Ship change. And I want to thank once again everybody in the chat, and I'll do the drill order. Greg, Lemon Pie. Let's see here. I'm going through the chat to see if there's Captain Infinity. Thank you. Lovely Sherry. That's right. Lovely Sherry. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you're enjoying this so far. Oh, and by the way, I gave some interesting trivia about Gilligan's Island towards the beginning of this show. So if you weren't able to catch the beginning, I highly recommend you watch this on a rerun. I think you'll find some interesting information at the beginning. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and proceed, and Gorilla will be right back. So Skipper was asleep in the hut, and Gilligan and Professor are listening to the radio. And as we can see in the background, Skipper comes out of the hut in his sleepwalking days. And there he is. He walks around them, and they realize that he's asleep. And you can see Gilligan's happy. Professor is excited. And Professor's saying, "Shh, don't wake him up. Quiet." So they follow the skipper, and the skipper almost steps in the fire, but then is able to step aside and walk around it. And Gilligan says, "Look, let's follow him. Let's follow him." And Professor says, "Shh, quiet." Professor hushes him up and clasps his hand over Gilligan's mouth. And Gilligan's trying to warn him and point down. And Gilligan's trying to say, "Okay." And Gilligan doesn't want to talk, but he's trying to explain that he's standing in the fire and that his foot is on fire.
God, how many pairs of shoes does Gilligan have?
I know, right? That rubber
Those
soles
ones are completely wrecked.
Those are completely wrecked. You know what's funny? You can still buy shoes just like that. I've had them before.
Well, it's a cheap design.
They are. And Gilligan is already just... Go ahead.
They could be the same design, and they'll sell for anywhere from $15 all the way up to $500 of the exact same shoe.
You're right. What's interesting is I bought them is when I went fishing, and whenever I would go, pretty much fishing, swimming, that kind of stuff at a lake, I would take shoes like that to walk around on, because anybody who's worn them knows they don't have much of a sole. So if you're walking around on asphalt or hard floors, you're not going to want to wear those very long. But they work great on sand. So Gilligan is trying to explain to the professor that his foot was on fire, but the professor is keeping him gagged. And we have Skipper heading towards the beach, and he almost hits the tree, but he does step aside, so he has enough awareness where he's able to do that. And which now he's immediately followed by the Gilligan, who's still complaining about his foot, and the professor. And Gilligan, being distracted with the foot, runs into the tree and almost falls over and almost yells out in pain. And once again, the professor has to gag him. And now we have Gilligan, poor guy, he's got a burned foot and his head hurts from hitting into the tree.
So how come we have to keep silent now, but the first time Skipper sleepwalked, he was making all kinds of noises, still didn't wake up.
Well, I remember the first time Skipper was sleepwalking and Gilligan came out of the hut. I know he was watching him, but I think the only noise he made is when he fell in the water, right?
No, well then he tried waking Skipper up a few times.
I don't remember that. I have to watch it again, but I don't remember him touching or talking to the skipper. He just acted like he was more confused, but I could be wrong.
He said Skipper a couple times, I'm pretty sure.
And here we are, Skipper walking around this log. And Skipper immediately goes into the same state of dream, giving out orders. And as he does that, he swings his arm and accidentally knocks Gilligan into the water. There's Gilligan
screams out.
Right, once again. And the noise from landing in the water wakes the skipper up, unfortunately. And there's the professor telling Gilligan to hush, but I think it's a little too late. In fact, now I remember, Flash doesn't wake up. Right, the Flash says, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Bazil Battles Dragon said hot foot.
Hot foot. The first thing I would have done is head towards the water with the hot foot, right?
Yeah.
So Gilligan, the splash did not wake up Skipper, but Gilligan had some water in his mouth and he wanted to spit it out, but that's when the professor said hush. So Gilligan swallowed the water, and that's when Gilligan said ugh, and the ugh is what woke up Skipper. And now they're frustrated. It's like, how are we going to get the idea now? Especially because the pilot's going to be coming anytime. They attempt now to hypnotize the skipper. They're using, obviously, one of Mrs. Howell's bracelets, which looks like it has 1,000 diamonds on it. It'll probably be very expensive. And this is the point where the professor believes that he does have the skipper hypnotized. So they're trying to recreate the memory and jog his memory. So they're recreating the storm that Skipper was going through that night. So Gilligan is playing Mr. Sound Effects. So he's doing the blowing of the wind and the storm and the sea and things like that. And there's Skipper, and they're waiting for him to come up with the idea how to build the radio. Mr. and Mrs. Howell don't seem to be too amused. And here's Gilligan making the swishing sound of the heavy wind. And this is where Mr. Howell says, "Lovey, this is making me seasick. Do I have my seasick pills?"
Mm-hmm.
And here's where the professor says, "Okay, he's under." And the skipper is now officially hypnotized.
Why didn't they do this in the first place?
It's the first time they were able to get him asleep without waking him up so far.
Yeah, but why didn't they just hypnotize him in the first place to do this?
I guess the professor hadn't thought of it. Maybe that's the only reason I could think of. And what's going on is Skipper still is in his dream state. So each of the castaways here are playing one of his crew members that he was working with that day. So that's the reason why you see each crew member participating, or each castaway participating. And Lovey Howell is trying to make the sound. She's trying to lower her voice and sound like a man.
Yeah, and Skipper goes, "Don't lower your voice, laryngitis."
Right, what's wrong with your voice? Laryngitis, sir.
Is there beeping on your end?
No, I do hear beeping though. Let me see. It is. It's from my end. I had to take my headphones off. It stopped.
Okay.
It's somebody backing up a car.
Oh, is that what it is?
I got a bunch of people. I don't know why on my block, but a lot of vans, a lot of utility and work vans. It's families and yeah, somebody with the van. By the way, I did speak to that person that has the van with the horn going off all the time. Remember I was telling you about that?
Yeah.
I waited one day until I hear the alarm honking, and I ran out there and spoke to him.
What did he say?
So, he was very apologetic. He was very nice. I kind of felt bad, but I was nice about it. I just said, "Hey, you need to adjust that, alarm. You need to fix it. It's waking people up at all hours of the night." And he's like, I'm sorry. And I haven't heard the alarm since.
No, that's the proper way to do it right there. It's not like you went out there screaming and yelling at them. That's when they don't listen to you. Is when you start just screaming and yell at you.
Right, exactly. I wouldn't want to do that. As soon as he opened his mouth, I could tell he was a very nice guy, and I could tell he felt bad. So that's why immediately, you calm down. It's like, okay, this is just some guy. He probably got a family with kids, and this is his work van. So
yeah.
But he moved the van a little further away from my house, and I haven't heard the horn since. So I'm guessing he's been locking it and hasn't been turning the alarm on, or he had it fixed. I don't know. Sorry about the tangent, everybody. Everybody out there in YouTube land are wondering what are we talking about.
Oh, it's not a live stream if you don't go off on these random tangents there.
That's true, right? And at least it's not a story of me fighting the neighbor. No, it's like I usually try to be nice with people.
Yeah, and it's not like you're on a live stream with 10 different people having 6 different conversations.
All trying to shout over each other, right?
Well, it's not necessarily shouting over each other, but there'll be like someone will be talking about one thing, then someone will bring something else up to a direction at a different person, and someone else will bring something up and direct it at a different person.
And it goes on and on and on until you realize, wait a minute, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So here they are, still making the sound effects, and they seem to have jogged Skipper's memory. And there we have the missing transmitter, which we have not seen since the pilot episode. So it's like fascinating. So now all of a sudden they found the transmitter. So they were able to...
Wait. If they had a transmitter the whole time, why did they have to rebuild one?
Well, they didn't rebuild it. This is the transmitter, but it hasn't been working. This is the transmitter that, if you remember in the unaired pilot, when Gilligan was fishing, he accidentally got a hold of this transmitter and threw it out into the water. And
Oh, see, I thought it was the other radio.
both.
Okay, now a transmitter that's big. That'd be heavy, especially for it being built in the 50s and 60s. There, that would have snapped the line. That would have snapped the line.
Well, not only that though, but like I said when we watched it, I said, look, maybe a fish could swallow the radio, but I don't know if a fish could swallow the transmitter.
Yeah, and that will have snapped his fishing line just from the fear, just a jerk and how heavy it is. It will snap the line. Especially if they haven't changed the line out in quite a while, and with it being a hot, humid area, that weakens the line. That's why you're always supposed to store it in like in a cool, dry place, so it keeps its strength for longer. That will totally snap that fishing line.
Right.
Unless
so
they're using
nylon, right?
Back then they would have had monofilament. Plastic.
What do you think it was plastic?
Yeah, back then it was mostly monofilament. You didn't get your fluorides and braids until like 80s, 90s, maybe 2000s.
Oh, that's interesting. That's good to know.
I used to make this stuff, so I know a thing or two about fishing stuff.
Well, I appreciate the trivia. Thank you. So we have the transmitter. Following the instructions from the skipper's dream, they did the best they could, but unfortunately the transmitter is still not working. And they're trying to talk to the transmitter to see if they can get a signal into the radio, and it doesn't seem to be working. And as you can see from Skipper and Professor's face, they're not very happy. And Skipper feels bad because he's thinking, I just wish I could have fixed it. I wish I remember exactly. But of course, they're telling Skipper, don't worry, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. And he's saying, but it's too bad because I know she's going to be passing over any time. So Gilligan...
Why did they build a signal fire anyhow in case they couldn't fix the transmitter?
Well, they do have a fire working, and they have their little torches in the background.
Not a big enough fire to be seen from the air, though.
One thing's for certain, this has been a good time for a flare. They had a flare gun still, right? Or flares?
Yeah.
Without shooting the plane. Gilligan probably would hit the plane with the flare gun.
I thought, God, maybe that was a Family Guy joke, or was it American Dad, or they're stranded there. They shot a flare gun. It hits the plane. Okay, now they're going to have to come and rescue the pilot. The plane comes in and catches the guy parachuting on the plane.
I need to try to catch that episode.
I don't know. I don't remember what show or what episode it was.
Okay.
I'd have to find it.
All right. Maybe somebody out there listening or watching the video and the rerun might notice. If any of you guys realize, please put it in the chat. I appreciate it. So Skipper and Professor have given up. They try the best they can. No matter what they do, they cannot get the transmitter working. So Gilligan walks over and sits down, and he's playing with the radio. And in frustration, Gilligan pounds on the radio a few times and then starts talking to the transmitter. And as he starts talking to the transmitter, he can hear his voice on the radio. And then he realizes that by pounding on the transmitter, he was able to get it working. So something was loose.
With the signals just create a high whine, the radio being that close to the transmitter.
That's what I was going to say. You would get feedback. Right.
Yeah. And Euler Greg's giving us some beers.
Thank you, Euler Greg. I could use one or two.
Yeah, you put 3 beers in the chat.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure the castaways could use them as well.
Yeah.
So Gilligan realizes Gilligan is realizing that he fixed the transmitter. He can hear himself on the radio, but at the same time that he's talking, the pilot in the plane can hear him, and she says hello down there. So Gilligan realizes that he fixed the transmitter, and he gets very excited.
Yeah. And he says he has to go get the skipper.
Right.
See, I was totally expecting him to hit that table and knock the transmitter right off the table.
That's what right, or maybe like the electrical cord getting wrapped around his foot or something. But where are you going to have it plugged in? So we're assuming everything's battery operated, right?
Yeah, I was totally expecting to bump the table and everything get knocked off the table.
You know what's great is, would that have been funny? Yeah, that would have been funny. But what they do here is actually more funny.
Yeah.
I like the way they resolve it. So Gilligan is excited. He says, "Wait." So he sets the radio down on top of the transmitter, and he gets up and he starts heading towards the hut to go wake up the professor and the skipper. And as you can see, Professor is excited, or Skipper is excited, and he says, "What's going on, Gilligan? What's going on?" And Gilligan says, "I fixed the radio. I fixed the radio." And Skipper doesn't believe him. He said, "You fixed the radio? How could you possibly fix the radio?" And then Gilligan wants to give him a demonstration of how he fixed the radio. So Gilligan said, "Well, all I did was hit the top of it just like this." And as Gilligan bangs on the radio, as you can see, the back of the radio pops open and all the gears and everything from inside fall out. There it is, and onto the ground. So the transistors, the tubes, everything are on the ground, which means now it is totally inoperable. And Gilligan's looking shocked.
Well, they might still be able to fix it again.
Oh, well, you could. But I'm guessing if they had barely enough knowledge to just switch a few wires from Skipper's dream, they may not remember how to hook up everything on the inside again.
No,
It's called a chassis. The part that popped out is called a chassis. Well, they definitely have plenty of time. They got 15 years, right?
Yeah.
So Gilligan is looking, and he realizes, oh no. And as you can see, Gilligan is sad. And Skipper is saying, very funny, very funny. You were probably dreaming that you fixed it. Skipper still doesn't believe him. But then you hear the voice of the pilot on the radio saying, "Hello down there, sir. Hello, are you still there? Are you still there?" And that's when Skipper realizes that Gilligan was actually talking to the pilot. And at this point, they can hear the plane passing overhead. So here we go. Obviously, they were not rescued. The pilot of the plane did not come down and save them. So here we are the next day. Skipper asleep. And there's Gilligan outside. And he knows Skipper hasn't been getting much sleep lately. So he's out there basically protecting the hut, trying to keep everything quiet so Skipper can get his long-deserved nap. And we have a bug right outside there that Gilligan seems to be focused on. He doesn't want the bug to bother Skipper. So Gilligan grabs a gourd, which unfortunately has beads in it, so it starts rattling. So Gilligan lowers the gourd and empties out the beads. And Gilligan goes on the hunt for the bug. And interestingly enough, the bug zeroes in on the inside of the hut. What do you know? What a shock. So Gilligan follows the bug into the hut. And as you can see, he's looking for the bug, and it's down below. And now it's up above. And he's looking around, following his eye line with the bug. And where does the bug land? On the Skipper. And we didn't catch it in this. Oh, wow. I didn't even notice that.
Notice what?
I'm going to show this real quick here. Here's where Gilligan sees the bug and clubs Skipper with the gourd. This is the still I wanted to get. So Skipper was asleep. Gilligan trying to hit the bug, of course, hits Skipper over the head with the gourd. And when he does so, Skipper wakes up and is frightened, doesn't know what to do. And he says, "What are you doing, Gilligan?" And Gilligan explains about the bug, but look, the gourd is broken. That's what I didn't notice the first time. So apparently he hit Skipper hard enough to break the gourd. I think that's funny.
Or was it already broken?
It was not broken. It was not broken because they showed the gourd from all angles. And not only that, but when he lifted it up, it was rattling with the seeds inside. And he had to empty them out of the neck of the opening of the gourd. So yeah, it broke from the impact on Skipper's skull. That could have been Skipper's head, I guess. And we come to our conclusion. And here we have our farewell to the passengers. And once again, everybody, at the very beginning, I kind of read off some trivia information of how these passengers could have came about with all these supplies, clothing, and things like that, as well as the real names of each character. Another fantastic episode. One of these days on one of these streams, what I'm going to touch on is the dark side of Gilligan's Island. There's actually a lot of danger that the end. The best way to explain this is there's a lot of times where the castaways are in danger, but it's all off camera. They're not going to show that obviously for a sitcom. But an example is the first night they built the hut in Home Sweet Hut. They all had an argument. They were all sleeping within one hut. And they all had an argument, and they said, well, we're not going to sleep in here. Everybody stormed out of the hut. And we're assuming that they all slept out in the open without a hut and without cover. So there's a lot of tragedy that could possibly happen to these castaways. A lot of times when they're in danger, even though they keep it light here, and everything on camera is light, but they're actually in danger a lot of times when you think about it. And here we are at the end. Glad to see you, United Artists Television Production. Filmed at CBS Studio Center. Okay. We made it through to another stream. A few more bugs again. I promise everybody I will get those bugs worked out. I'm going to super glue this Ethernet cable into my computer, whatever it takes to keep it in there. Back in the old days on these Ethernet cables, the little lock button would break off and the cable would come jostled loose from the computer. But the fact that they designed this stupid laptop where it's easy to pop out, which makes it pop out all the time, it's foolish. So it's a horrible design.
I think you got either like a bad one that was just a tad bit too big past tolerance, or that you got the upper end of the tolerance for the port and the lower end of the tolerance for the cable.
Well, what it has, one of these days I'll take a picture of it. I'll show it to you. But it doesn't have what looks like a usual Ethernet slot. It looks like an Ethernet slot that with a flap underneath, a flap. Which that's the reason why it unfortunately keeps coming out.
Wait. Your laptop's probably one of the newer ones where you got to buy a damn adapter.
Oh, that's very possible too.
Because I mentioned that I didn't have an Ethernet port on mine, and one of the guys told me I had to get a $6 adapter from Amazon.
Of course, they're going to do anything to make you buy more stuff, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now, before I forget, I have a poll in the chat. Everybody, if you're there, if you're still watching, feel free to vote in the poll. I put a poll in. Which episode do you enjoy best? I forgot the two other options. Last week, I put the name of the first episode, the name of the second episode, and then I said both equally, and then neither. And I forgot to put the both equally and the neither. I promise I will do that next time.
I preferred Voodoo Something to me.
Voodoo Something to me. And there we are. It looks like you're not the only one. So, which episode did you like best? We have a total of 6 votes, and it looks like Voodoo Something to Me won with 83%. And Goodnight Sweet Skipper had 17%, which is great. Thank you, everybody, for voting in the poll. Yeah, that was fun. Okay. Jubila, is there anything you would like to share or like to just bring up or comment on?
No, I just plugged everything. I plugged everything earlier in the beginning of the thing there. Mostly, I got a big watch party coming in on Sunday, so I'm hoping everybody who's can make it to that. That's a big one for me.
Well, I really appreciate you helping me with the stream tonight and keeping up with those chats when I was busy. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, it's getting close to midnight.
Euler Greg says, good show, guys. Thank you, Euler Greg. Yeah, I know that's why I was late. I was trying to hurry this up because I know it's late for you. You work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I'm going to do, what I might do, we'll talk about it later. but I might make you a producer on my show, and that way, if I'm busy with the video, you can go and select the different chats as you're reading them. Does that make sense?
Okay.
I think there's a way I can give you access to that, which I think it'll help.
All
And that
right.
way,
Yeah.
I want everybody to, I like when you read their chats, but I also like to show their chats up on screen. I want them to know that they're all recognized.
Yeah.
And okay, so Gorilla's Random Thoughts told us about his channel. And on my channel, obviously, everybody, if you're here or if you're listening or if you're on the rerun, we have Star Trek The Animated Series reviews every Tuesday with Anti-Derivative Jill. It's a great show, especially if you love Star Trek or if you love the animated series. If you have not seen the animated series, I suggest you try it. It's definitely unique. On Tuesdays,
I was gonna say, too bad I won't be able to make it Monday, or if I will, I'll be late.
Okay, well, you hear that, Jill, if you're out there. I'll remind her. And Tuesdays, you will find me on Anti-Derivative Jill's channel. On Anti-Derivative Jill's channel, we cover Star Trek, the original series. So that's another big one. That's another fascinating show that we come up with a lot of trivia, a lot of behind-the-scenes information, and things that you may not have known. So once again, like with Gilligan's Island and with Star Trek, I hope you always walk away knowing more than you did before. So hopefully this will enlighten you, and it'll grow your appreciation for the show. Yes, and thank you all, everybody. Seriously. Brazil Battle Dragon, and I drew Jill, and then Pie. I mean, I'd like to thank everybody. Order Greg. All of you guys are fascinating, wonderful people. Thank you so much. And lovely Sherry, I know you stopped by. Thank you, Sherry. And okay, so I think that's it. Okay, you plugged your channel, right? And I plugged my channel, making sure I cover everything. And Order Greg says, put your link in the chat, Gorilla.
Okay, just
let me try. I think I can. Let me see if I can trigger. Let me see if I can trigger my bot. Did I spell the word right? Probably not. Yeah, I spelled it right. It looks like, of course, my bot's not working.
Okay, I'm getting it here.
All right, thank you.
Just need a minute because my computer's starting to slow down here.
Sounds like mine. That's what I'm gonna do. Is I'm gonna fix my internet connection and give me some more RAM.
Yeah, mine there. The Minecraft takes up a lot of the space there.
Oh, I see. I did misspell it. I want to know. Yeah, I want my own. I want to know for myself that I did spell it. Let's see. Let me try this one more time. That should work if I spelled it right this time. Let's see. Unless my chat bot went to sleep. I don't know. I guess it's not going to work.
Alrighty, I'm getting my.
There it is.
Loaded. Oh,
there we go. Yep, it did pop up. So everybody, please check out Gorilla's Random Thoughts channel. There is a link in the chat right there if you'd like to check it out. He's got a lot of interesting things, and he's a very funny man. And he'll have some Christmas streams coming up, Halloween streams, Christmas streams. So basically, different holiday-themed viewing parties.
Yeah, and we'll be doing HG Wells after Halloween here, but Monday's Halloween, so I'm obligated to take the kid trick or treating.
Oh, nice. Oh, Basil Battle Dragon sub. Thank you for subbing, Basil.
Yeah,
I was gonna pass out candy this year too, but I always eat it so fast. I got to stop myself from eating it.
You know what you do?
What's that?
On your way home from work. Stop at the dollar store and pick it up then.
The dollar store, do they have the good stuff? Like Milky Way and the good stuff? Or is it
they got that, and it's gonna be cheapest. Or Walmart would probably be your cheapest, but a dollar store or Walmart would be your two cheaper ones. They got all the candies. Thank you very much, Oiler Greg.
Yeah, you got another sub. Very cool. Yeah, thank you, Oiler Greg. Yeah, I mean, you like Gorilla's channel. He's got a lot of fun stuff going on there.
Yeah, and thank you, Basil.
Basil.
Hopefully, I'm saying it right, Basil.
Actually, yeah, that's just it. I don't know if I'm saying it right either, because Basil is usually Basil. So is this Basil or Basil?
I was
free to
thinking
correct us
Brazil,
anytime.
but I was thinking Brazil for some reason.
Well, because it looks similar to the word Brazil, but there's no R. So that's
Yeah.
understandable. Ola Greg says, yeah, sub to Gorilla 2. So, hey,
Yeah.
fantastic.
And hopefully we'll do some. Hopefully I'll be able to do some good Walton reviews. I gotta figure out how to do a 30. I want to figure out how to do like a countdown. I'll
Well,
figure that out.
sometime here and then you and I will get together and we'll figure out how to do it. How's that?
All right, thank you.
I'll help you with it because I have it on my streams, so I'm sure I can help you come up with something as well.
Yeah. Oh shoot, I'm gonna have to come up with a thumbnail tomorrow too. Yeah, tomorrow's gonna be the intro to the Waltons. I'm gonna establish like the setting and the characters and all that, and explain like how I'm gonna do them because I don't want to do like a 3 hour review on an episode. I want to keep it to like 20 to 40 minutes. Some episodes might go longer.
Are you going to show them starting with a series, or are you going to start with the movie?
Which one comes first chronically?
The movie.
Okay,
I think it's called A Walton Thanksgiving or something like that. It came out, and it did really well in the ratings, and then that's when they said, okay, let's make a series.
Okay, so I'll do the movie first, then I'll do... I didn't even know they made a movie.
Well, time to find out, huh? Now it's time to watch it. I'm glad I brought it up.
Yeah.
Dazzle Battle Dragon says good night, guys. Good night, Dazzle. Thank you once again for being here, everybody.
Yeah, that must have been the same. Yeah, it must have been the same for like Babylon 5.
Very possible, very possible. So thank you, everybody. Like I said, I'm going to wrap this up. It's really late, and poor Gorilla here especially because it's going on midnight for him, and the guy's got to get some sleep. He's got to get up early in the morning. So it means so much for all of you being here. Have a great night, everybody. And thank you and peace.